Yes. We need no introduction. I am gonna tweet that we're live.
Did you do it on Instagram too? Like, should I share a story?
Yeah, if you could do Instagram, that would be great, because I did it on Twitter here.
Do you have a... I never know, like, how do I share... Do I have to, like, download the picture of you?
I am still very new to Instagram, so the way I do things is probably not how you're supposed to. But I think when okay, did I share it too? I think I did. I think I turned on the setting that means you should be able to share it directly because I tagged you, but I don't know if that's still...
Yes, but it's expired.
Okay.
After the
So,
story expires after 24 hours,
right,
you can't access it anymore.
right. Okay,
So
I
you
can
probably
just
have to
send
like take
you...
a screenshot of it and then post it to your stories.
Okay, I can just send that to you, Kelly.
Okay.
Let me do that now.
Hi, if anybody's here. I don't know if
Yes.
Just having some technical
figure out all stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. It's thinking about it. I'm just going to do it on my computer. That's easier. Let me just send you the thumbnail. I can never remember what I name all these thumbnails. Okay.
I usually end up like copying my thumbnails and editing, so my thumbnails end up getting called copy of copy of copy or something. And I'm like, oh, that's lovely.
Yeah.
Can't find anything because everything is just a copy of something.
Yes. Okay, it's got to be here. I found where it's like supposed to be, and now I'm just like, where is it showing up?
Huck, you didn't get the message. We are wearing olive green today.
I know. I must have missed that. I do have olive green things, but I went for white today.
Well, you have your plants, so I guess you
That's
can...
true. That can like count for me.
Okay, I'm gonna have to download my thumbnail from YouTube and then send it to you. I'm sorry, Kelly. I'm so prepared.
Whatever.
We like to ease people in, you know, so...
Yeah. Or if you have, Kelly, if you have like the YouTube app on your phone, you could like just take a screenshot of it where it says live and be like, live now. That's also an option.
I guess I could. Yeah, okay.
Either way.
I'm real, great at this.
Okay, I finally found it, I think.
Or I could just do it on Instagram if you...
At this point, it's like...
I'll do it.
There we go. I finally sent it.
Oh, okay. Wait, so what's happening?
So I sent it in I sent the thumbnail in the Instagram thing message.
Okay.
We're really good at this, everyone. It's my fault for not being able to find the thumbnail quickly, but...
So, Kelly, are you sharing it or am I on Instagram?
We can both share it. I mean, I'm about to share it. I just need to copy the link and then...
I don't know if I've ever done a link on an Instagram story.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
You just go, on YouTube where it's like the thing that says share.
Mm-hmm.
You can copy link. And then in Instagram, there's one of the things, listed is at link or link. It doesn't say at, it just says link. I don't know what I'm saying, but it gives you an option to link.
Hello, Sina. How long will our first sprint be? Generally when we do crafting sprints, we do like a crafting part where we just hang out and talk first. Our first reading sprint probably won't be for a little while. That's usually what we do. I don't know if Kelly and Huck have any preferences. Hello. We could also start with a reading sprint if that is better for people.
Okay.
Wait, what is it doing? I feel like Instagram changed how this works. Jeez.
All
All right. Well, I posted something on my Instagram story.
Perfect. Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is a
We don't
very
usually
auspicious start.
I
know
know.
what we're doing.
Oh,
Fine.
got uni work to do anyways. Yeah, and feel free. We always say this, but like, feel free to mute the chatty sections if that works better for you. That's something I've done on sprints before. So
Yeah.
You're tired of hearing us talk because we usually
yeah,
talk for most of
It's like 90%
throw
talking.
in we throw in like one silent reading sprint, but
Yeah.
like the rest is just talking and hang out. Also, guys, this is the sweater I finished.
Oh wow,
Oh,
that's
it is?
yours.
I was thinking
Yeah.
it looked similar. Wow. I
Yes.
feel like, well, it's been a while since we did this, but I feel like you finished it fast.
I did, yeah. Like I was very motivated because it was my first sweater and I was excited. But
Yeah.
I'm very
Is it
proud of myself.
how long are the sleeves?
So the sleeves, it's like weird because sometimes, depending on how the neckline is fitting at the moment, it sometimes seems like the sleeves are a little short, which like I followed the pattern, but I also haven't blocked it yet. And that tends to stretch it out a little bit. So that might be why. But when I do another sweater, I might make the sleeves a little longer than they say. I don't know.
Mhm.
But otherwise, I'm pretty happy with how it came out.
That's
Yeah.
exciting.
That's cool. It's a real sweater you can
I
actually wear.
know. Look at me. I make things.
I made something this week and finished it.
Oh,
Really?
really?
So I still have that Afghan, but it was taking so long. I was like, I'm never gonna feel the satisfaction of finishing something. So I made a scarf with like kind of
Oh,
bulky
do you
fabric.
crocheted it?
Yep.
Ooh.
Cool.
It's like so long. I didn't measure it when I first found it. And I was like, oh, this is like so long.
Did you do it like lengthwise or
Yes,
like?
the chain was the length.
Oh, that's okay. I get it.
Like if I had done like if the chain at the beginning was the width, I could have just stopped, but it was the length, and I was like going on the second row, and I was like, wow, this is long.
Yeah.
Super scarf.
So next time I'd probably shorten, but I was excited because I never used this like kind of thick, it's like thick velvety kind of stuff. So I've accomplished something.
Yeah.
Yes, that
That's
is exciting. Nice and warm and cozy.
Yes. My daughter will probably steal it, even though for her it would be like she would have to loop it like 5 times.
Yeah,
Like a little blanket.
right.
It's
A
basically
wearable
like
blanket.
a skinny blanket. Yeah.
Yeah. I made some progress on my giant sweater and then I reached a point where I am annoyed with it. And so I'm not working on it today.
Oh,
I understand.
I can show you where I'm at though with it because it's right here. So, oops, I just knocked something over. I have like front and back of it.
Nice.
So there's 2 sides and the ribbing around the collar is done. And I like started the sleeve, but then I was like, I don't think I like how the sleeve is going. And so I haven't decided if I'm like undoing it or if I'm just gonna have like ugly sleeves.
yeah.
So I'm back to working on this other sweater that I started like 2 years ago and have not done anything on.
Okay.
And this is the one that goes so slowly because it's like this Tunisian knit stitch. And I have like probably too fine a yarn for what I'm actually doing. And so it just takes so long to do anything.
Yeah.
Like I think the last time I worked on this for one of these streams, it was like in a 3-hour stream, I managed to complete like 3 rows
Yeah.
of this. So it's not very satisfying to work on.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing with like I think I had messed up an entire row of that scarf, but I was like, I don't want to take it all out. I'm just gonna be fine.
Yes.
So this is why I can't do any fancy projects because I'm like, I'm not willing to like take everything out.
Well, I mean, you're also like, this is one of your earlier projects, so I think that totally makes sense that you're not wanting to do the super detailed stuff.
I will also say though that like with this one, I have definitely made mistakes that are very visible, and I was like, I'm not undoing it. We're just gonna say it's added texture.
Yeah.
Because honestly, like if you look at it, let me find like one of the spots where I like clearly messed up. I don't know how well you can see this, but there's like a spot right there where there's just some stitches missing. And
Yeah.
I was like, well, whatever. It's fine.
Yep. Yep. I
Close
know.
enough. It'll be like artfully messed up.
Yes, yes.
Well, when you're
I
wearing it on your body, it'll fold in on its, like
Maybe.
yeah.
Yeah.
it's not like
Who
it's gonna
knows?
be super tight all the way across. So like you might not notice it.
Yeah.
Right. I know. I finished, or not even I had finished the sweater, but I was like still working on it. And I definitely had moments where like, huh, this is a spot that doesn't look right. And like you can tell it doesn't look right. I'm like, too late, not going back. Like
Yeah.
forward.
Going back.
Yeah.
Kelly, what are you working on today?
Well, I think because I was crocheting like all week, I might go back to hand quilting
Mm-hmm.
just to have some variety, but I might go back and forth. Like I might decide I'm
Yes.
tired of poking myself with a needle and decide to go back to crocheting.
Understandable.
Because I hate wearing a thimble, so I just end up poking myself a lot.
Your thumb is the thimble.
Yeah,
Nature's
basically,
thimble.
basically that's what happens. Because I just like really hate wearing thimbles, so I was like, well,
I feel
Yeah.
like they always make things more difficult because you don't
Mhm.
have the like dexterity or like the sensation
Right.
to like do fine work. So like I get the purpose of them. And if I sewed enough, I guess I would have to use one eventually. But I always am like, I feel like it kind of just makes it harder.
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
And
it's
if I was
something that there's a learning curve for, it looks like, and I've
Mm.
never wanted to spend the time like doing it. So,
Yeah, and if I was like sewing every day, like if I was like if like in the day where people would sew each day to like mend or make
right.
clothing, then I would probably like want to wear a thimble. But if I'm only sewing like once a week, I think it's gonna be okay if I
Yeah.
poke myself some.
Yeah.
Yes.
What are you working on, Kara?
I am working on a sock that is going to be one of a pair, obviously, for my sister. Um, but I'm a little, so like I'm doing a new heel and toe construction, and I hope the fit is still good because I haven't done this before. And also, I'm kind of having to like edit and improvise as I go because the pattern that I'm using, like the whole book that I'm using, is like written for circular needles because there's two ways basically to knit socks, or there's two like tools that you can use. You can do double pointed needles, which is what I'm doing, or you can do two really long circular needles. And all of the patterns in this book are for circular needles. So I'm having to like translate the best I can.
Mm.
So we will see how it turns out. Like it's looking, I mean, it looks like a functional like sock heel, which is good. I'm just like a little worried about the fit, but we'll see.
Mm.
I think this is the first time this has happened, but earlier today I was working on this and I broke one of my needles.
Oh,
And
wow.
yeah, I mean,
That
and
seems like it'd be hard to do.
well, they are like really, really tiny. This is a US size 1.5, which
Oh, okay.
is like, I think it's like 2.5 millimeters across. Like, this is like the needle size. So
Mm-hmm.
they're like really small. But yeah, they're supposed to be like sturdier than that. So I don't know if I did something wrong or if this, I don't know if this just wasn't like a super strong needle, but so now I'm being like extra gentle, extra careful. So
I have been like, I'll give you guys a quilt update in a minute, but I have
yes.
also recently realized that like I mostly like when I'm sewing, I am not good about taking pins out, I just sew over pins, and I break needles sometimes. Not that frequently, but sometimes you break needles when you sew over a pin.
Yeah, yeah.
And sometimes pieces of the needle go flying.
Oh
Oh
my
no.
gosh.
It can be dangerous. It's not a good practice. Don't do it.
Yeah.
But I have realized that recently I just at a certain point I just decided like I just wear my glasses like they're goggles so that I don't get a needle in my eye. Because
Huck.
I have had a piece of needle hit me in the face before. Like not like it didn't like stick, it just like hit me.
Okay,
You need to be careful.
yeah, I feel like this is a good argument for not sewing over needles willy-nilly, like, or pins.
I've done it for such a long time, it's fine. And I wear glasses now. For a long time, I did not wear glasses while I was
Oh
sewing.
my god. I feel like you need actual safety goggles. Like,
So yeah, now I have like my biggest glasses, the big like kind of octagon ones that are like
yeah.
bigger than these because those like cover the most surface space. Those are my sewing glasses now, so they're like my safety glasses.
Oh my god.
Everybody watching know that we do not condone this
Yeah,
behavior.
do not do what
Huck
I'm
does. Don't.
And even beyond your face, that can damage your machine if
Oh
your
yeah.
if your pieces of needle go down into your machine.
I am pretty sure that I lost a piece of a pin the other day.
Oh
Like
my god.
because it broke a pin and I don't know what happened to the other half.
You have cats, don't you?
I have
Dog.
dogs.
Dogs. I'm like,
They don't go in that room. Yeah,
like,
and
they're not gonna eat your piece of needle or
and I do like search the floor also to make sure that like it's okay. Yeah, I probably honestly I haven't had my sewing machine like looked at in a really long time, and it probably needs to be, even just for the fact that it's like super dusty. Like dust gets inside it and then like it sticks to the oil that like oils the gears and stuff. So
Yeah.
it probably just needs to be looked at anyway.
They're
And
gonna open it up.
maybe they'll find half a pin in there.
They're gonna open it up and there's like piles of shattered pins and like needles. Like, it's like, what were you using?
Yeah, I'll be like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah. Oh my
Just
gosh.
living on the edge.
Yeah.
I recently was at like a quilting store where I saw by the cash register they had like a little pin that looked like a little award ribbon that said like I don't sew over my needles. So I was like, I'm not the only one. Somebody else does this.
It's clearly a common enough problem that they make merchandise about
Yeah.
it.
Oh, which I should show you guys. So I went to a place that like there's a I can't talk. Sorry. There is a store here in my town that makes like its own boutique fabrics and like hand stamped
Ooh.
fabrics and stuff. Like she designs her own and then she sells them online. And she like they have a storefront, but they don't use it as a like they don't open it up to public. You have to like reserve time to go in there because they don't like want to have like a store that they have to constantly have open.
Right.
And so we went this week and I've got some like really cute stuff.
Yes, show us.
So give me a moment. I have to go get it.
Craft haul.
As I like lose everything.
Don't hurt yourself.
Okay, Miss Sew over all your pins. Like,
I know. I feel like normally I'm such a like safety person, but this is like my one thing that I'm just like, look, it is a pain in the butt to have to remove your pins as you're sewing because you have to go like so stop, take out pin. So like half an inch, stop, take out pin. It's the most annoying thing.
When I did my brief time of like learning vaguely basic things on how to sew, I remember that it was such a pain to have to take them out. And I think it was like she let us sew over them and you just had to like go really, really slow. when you were doing that. So like that's another thing you could do is like just slow down a little when you get to them. I don't know if you already do that, but
Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't.
oh my god, Huck. You're just like creating sharp projectiles every time you like use your sewing machine.
Or you could just not pin so much. Like that's why I just don't pin very often because I'm just
No,
like
I don't pin a whole lot most of the time. It really is mostly in scenarios where it's like it really has to like stay where it is. Like if I'm sewing straight lines most of the time, I don't put that many pins in. But like sometimes if you have to sew like a like a 3D curved line, like something that's like a bust piece or something, where it's like you have to like really put it where it's supposed to go, otherwise it's crazy. Anyways, though, but also with those kind of things, I tend to go very slowly because it's on a curve, so you have to like really go around it. Anyways, I did not mean to like turn it into this whole thing where I'm worrying you guys.
We're all worried about you now. Yeah.
But now I have glasses as safety goggles.
Kelly, show us your stuff.
Yes. Yeah. Focus on something positive.
All right. So I focused all my other stuff on this fabric, which is owls. You used the owls.
Oh, I can see the owl. It's cute.
So that was my like focus. And then I just have some background ones. You don't care about those. I have like some leaves, green leaves.
Cute.
Greenish brown. And then this is kind of like a, I don't know, it's kind of blackish purple. It's hard to tell on the
Are these like all gonna go together in a quilt or like okay.
Yeah, so these are all gonna go together. And this like kind of turquoisey with some browns and stuff. Yeah. And then the other two are just kind of like a lighter batik that'll just be like the background, and then like another kind of more of a solid type batik. But yeah, those are my fabrics. So
these are cool. I like the owl one especially. It's very cute.
Yeah. Well, that's why I wanted the owl will be like, I'm gonna make blocks where the owl is like the center of the block, and then just do the other stuff around it. But I would have bought like more variety, but they have like since they're like more fancy, they have like a 1 yard minimum, and I'm like, I'm not gonna buy like 20 different pieces of 1 yard cuts. Like that's a lot.
Yeah. Makes sense. I like how they all like, it looks like they're gonna all look really nice together too. Very cohesive.
Neat. My mom like got so much stuff. I was like, okay. There's a lot of stuff, Mom, but
that's funny.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna give you guys a quilt update on the t-shirt quilt that I'm making.
Yes.
Because well, you guys saw that I sent you guys a picture of that. Like I actually bought quilting tools, so I have like a rotary mat that has like the grid and a rotary cutter and like what are those clear things called? Like they're not measuring sticks. They're like
the rulers.
Rulers. Oh my god, I could not think of the word ruler.
A ruler?
Yeah. So I have like a square one and I have like a long one. Anyways, so I was very proud of myself for buying actual like tools for it instead of just like measuring stuff and hoping for the best. That's my normal way of doing things. And also I was thinking, I think when I messaged you, I was like, so my lines will be straight and my squares will be even. And I was like, it sounds like some weird crafting blessing. Like
I know, yes.
Your lines be straight and your squares be even.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I was very excited about that. I have made some good progress on it. I am almost completely done with the front. It has taken me an incredibly long time. Because I am actually most of the time I never pay attention to like how long things take me. So whenever people are like, wow, how long did it take you to make this? I'm like, I have no idea. But this time I'm actually tracking my hours.
Oh, wow.
And I have spent like 26 hours on it so far. And I would say at least 20 of those hours were just prep work. It was mostly like planning, cutting, and really like mostly ironing, because I had to iron all of the like interfacing onto the shirts. There was one day where I was like, I spent like 4 hours ironing and I did not finish the ironing. I did like a quarter of the ironing.
Yeah.
So this is taking, like, I don't normally make quilts, so I'm like, this seems ridiculous to me how long this is taking. But like the rulers that I got have been very useful. It's been great. And I do really like having a rotary cutter. It makes it much easier to like cut straight lines and stuff, so that's exciting. And yeah, the front is almost completely done. The only thing I have left is I want to do just like a thin border around the edge, because I have like I have two kinds of quilting fabric that I'm using for it. So there was one that had strawberries on it that she had sent to me because she really likes strawberries. And then I bought some fabric that is just like the backing fabric and just kind of to fill in other gaps and stuff, which is green with a very like a subtle white polka dot on it, which looks cute with the strawberries. And so I'm gonna have like a little green border. And today I was planning like what the back is going to look like, which I think I'm just going to do like triangles of the green and the strawberries all over. My plan though is that I'm not going to do the border on the front until I finish the back, so that any discrepancy in size I can just fill in with border.
Yes. Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, because like I am trying so hard to be like so precise and meticulous with this, and I have already things don't line up the way they're supposed to, and like I am like trying my best, but oh gosh. Anyway, that's my quilt update, but it's going pretty well.
Good. Yeah, sounds like you've made a lot of great progress on it.
Listening to a lot of audiobooks while I work on it.
There you go.
Sorry, I'm just reading my pattern.
No, you're good.
I also have like been using. There probably is something that's like a thing that's actually for this, but I've been using Canva to like make a plan for the quilt, so that I have like a little map of what it's going to look like, so that I know where things are supposed to go.
Nice.
I'm sure somebody's like made an actual, I don't know, like app or something that's for that.
Hi, Jen. Jen says, I'm bouncing between prepping for school and working on a jigsaw puzzle.
Ooh,
nice.
I just got a new puzzle, which is very exciting.
Ooh. Hi, Ro. Brittany Loves Reading is reading In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. Okay. Every time somebody talks about that one, I'm like, that's such a cool title. Like
that is a good title. I've heard good things about it.
Yeah. Oh, and Kelly, did you want to, and Huck can obviously talk about anything you read in January. I know you weren't like officially hosting it with us, but the short stack readathon, do we want to do any kind of chat or wrap up? Like I know somebody commented asking if we were going to do that, and I thought that could be something we just talk a little bit about during our sprints.
Yeah. I can pull up what I read. Yeah, because I never wrapped up anything. I was just kind of like,
I never calculated my points. Like I was like, I did a lot of reading. Great. So
yeah.
I definitely feel like it helped jumpstart my reading at the beginning of the year, which was great. And it got me to continue a bunch of series, which is also great. And the nice thing, which I think we talked about last time, is like, I mean, a lot of the things I read I did enjoy, but even the ones that I was kind of disappointed in, it's like they're so short. So it's like, whatever, you know, like it's not like days of my life I'll never get back. Hello, Natalie.
Of course, I didn't write down everything I read because I did more than that. I'm very prepared for this. Yeah.
No, I really like kind of sprung it on you, so you're fine.
Well, I know we even talked about it, and I still didn't like. Down.
You're like, oh, we're doing that. Okay.
Like, oh yeah, we discussed that.
Natalie says, I feel like I extended Short Stack Readathon into February because I just kept reading short things. Yeah, I feel like I'm still in the mood to like finish a lot of stuff, and I think that's been leading me to a lot of short books too.
I actually like, and there was stuff I was really genuinely like excited about. So I actually, looking at my list, I have continued. I have 1, 2, 3. Like 4 of the things that were on my TBR that I ended up reading in February.
Oh, nice.
Because I was like, well, I really want to read these. So I'm just going to keep reading. And I interspersed other things, but.
Yeah, I did that as well. I'm looking at the things I've read in February so far, and there's like a short story collection that I was originally, I think, going to read in January. Like I started it in January, and I finally read The Last Wife by Kate Hennig, which is a play. So I feel like I'm no longer embarrassed to message Julia because this was like our annotated book swap, and she read the one I sent her like really soon after she got it. And it has taken me so long to get to The Last Wife, and it is like so short. I have no excuse, but now it's fine. Oh, Natalie said, Callie, I also happened to read Moon of the Crusted Snow this month too, so it was a nice coincidence that you just wrapped it up.
Yeah, that was really interesting one.
I might try it sometime because I'm not usually a horror or post-apocalyptic person, but it sounds like it's a really different take on it from what I've heard from everyone. So, and it's more about like community in the midst of that, which I like the idea of that. So,
yeah, and I wouldn't say like I get why they might label it as horror, but I wouldn't really call it horror. I mean, just
Bree from Lunchbook Nation says, y'all didn't tell me that we were crafting. Yeah, we're just like hanging out and crafting, and we'll throw in like one reading sprint. That's usually what ends up happening. But you are welcome to work on anything you like or just hang out.
I mean, technically, I haven't done a single crafting thing since we've been talking.
You're preparing for your crafting.
All right. Coordinated my stuff. So I ended up doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. I read 17 things during the readathon. So during the month that were short things. I had one like longer thing, but those were all the short things I read. And for the most part, I ended up reading. Well, I guess I did. I had 2 short story collections and 3 things that I would. Well, I had put Light Princess under short story, but that actually turned out to be more of a novella. So I had like 2 short story collections and 2 actual short stories, and then the rest of them were actually longer things that were not like long, but you know what I mean, under 250 pages still, but not short
novels. Yeah,
short novels or a nonfiction. So
let me see how many things, because there were a couple things that I read that like I didn't put in my TBR as counting, but they definitely would because they were short novels. Mm-hmm. So if I include those, yeah, if I include those, I read 18 things that for the readathon. So
look at us coordinating.
I know. And I continued a lot of series, which I'm happy about. So very productive. Do we want to do like, what's that?
I finished a series, so that was good.
Oh, good. Do we
That was
want to
good.
do like highlights and lowlights? Like anything that you especially enjoyed or you didn't like? And Huck, obviously, feel free to jump in and just talk about January reads. We're not like, you can't participate because you
Yeah.
didn't read with us.
You read things, so
Yes.
yeah, I was actually going through and going to like label what I like my ratings so I could see kind of
Yeah.
what I didn't like.
Natalie said Moon of the Crescent Snow is actually a very realistic story in the face of societal collapse that made it all the more ominous to me instead of like zombies, for example. Yeah, that's one of the reasons I like haven't gotten to it yet is I'm like a little too real. I don't
Yeah.
know.
Well, that's
But
what I was telling my husband about it, and he's like, I can't, because he's, like
yes.
with anxiety of into the world type of thing.
Yeah,
He's like,
yeah,
"Oh."
yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, because it just feels like this would be it's much more realistic than some and even like ones that aren't zombie related. Some of them are like all about they follow people in the city. And since I don't live in a city, it just like feels like that's not how it would be for me living out in the
Yeah.
country, where this felt much more like what this would be like if you're living in like a rural area.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I looked at I kind of color coded mine by like star rating, and I basically gave 4 stars the majority of things. So
Nice.
I didn't rate one of the things, but other than that, so I had 12 of my 17 things were 4 stars.
That's really good.
So yeah, because I would consider 4 stars a solidly good book,
Yeah, definitely a hit.
And then I had a couple 5-star, 1 3-star, and 1 2-star.
Any in particular that you want to highlight?
Well, I would say actually the one I want to highlight is one of my 4 stars. Like I didn't give it 5 because it's a collection, but I really liked the Pandora's Jar collection by Natalie
Oh,
Haynes.
yeah.
I really had a good time like with that one, which she so she is a classicist, is that what you call it? Like somebody
Yeah.
that studies the classics and especially Greek mythology. She's done a lot of like novels that are Greek retellings, but she's a professor, I believe. Or maybe I thought so, something like that. And that one she's like kind of was looking into some of the women in Greek myths and analyzing how their stories have changed depending on who was writing about them. Because a lot of mythology was oral stories, and so there's not really an original, is what she's saying. Like you can't like say Homer's the original of something because it's not like Homer made up the like Iliad, like that was
Right.
already
He's like the
told.
most famous version of it, but
Yeah. And so she was talking about how like using art during the time to see kind of how maybe the Greeks at the time would have been portraying these women in their oral traditions, and then like talking about different adaptations through time and how over time these women might have changed how we perceive them. And I just thought that was really interesting.
yeah. Huck, do you want to talk about anything that stood out about your January reading?
Oh, sure. I got very like focused on what I was doing.
No, that's good.
uh,
Crafting zone.
yeah. Well, I mean, kind of unintentionally ended up reading a lot of short things in January. I think of how many things did I read? Like 8 or something. 5 of them were pretty
Nice.
short.
You participated in spirit.
Yes. um, trying to think. I mean, I reread The Two Princesses of Bamar, which was fun. Very like nostalgic.
Yes.
And what else did I read? I'm trying to remember. What did I do? I don't know. I didn't have a lot of things that were like standouts. I did finish a duology. I started and finished a duology. I read the Bold duology, which is The Widow Queen and The Last Crown, which is historical fiction. And that was a series that, like, I think I gave both of them like 3.5 stars. So they weren't like incredible, but they were good. But they were like really what I was in the mood for at the time. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, is this the best book ever? Maybe not, but I had a good time with it because it was really what I wanted right then.
Yeah, those are enjoyable reading experiences. Like,
Yeah, and I was just really glad to like finish a series, to like start and
yes,
finish it in 1 month. I'm trying to be better at like, especially if it's short, like a duology or trilogy, just like binging through
yeah.
things. Like I'm doing that right now with another series.
I saw that. I'm so excited.
Well, what is it? I did not see. I'm not like asking you enough. I
Yeah,
guess.
no, because Kara's the only one that actually like pays attention to my Goodreads.
I do.
I never
She
I
like
do.
she like likes it. No, not that you have to. I'm not saying you should. It's just as funny to me that Kara. I can always count on Kara to like my Goodreads update.
Yeah, like Carol.
Especially.
Like, I'm not good at like doing the feed. Like I'll go back if I'm gonna
Oh,
read a book.
I
Yeah,
don't use Goodreads like socially at all.
yeah.
I just track my reading. I don't look at what other people are doing.
I do check like if I'm about to start something or I want to buy something. I'll see if like I might
Oh
look and see
yeah,
if Kara read it and see what she
yeah.
thought about it, or other people I know. But I'm not gonna like keep an update on what people are like reading in the moment.
Right. I guess that's what I mean. Is like, yeah, I'll look at like reviews and see if someone's read something, but I don't keep track of like the feed to see what people are
Yeah.
like doing. Um yeah, so right now I am binging through the, what is it even called? It's the
It's
Half a Soul.
Regency. Yeah, Half a Soul. Regency
Oh,
Fairy Tales.
Yeah, I'm like maybe 20% into the third book. So yeah, I've been enjoying the series. I just like, I don't know, I've been in like a very specific mood. So I read Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson, and then after that I wanted something like kind of similar, and Half a Soul gave me kind of a similar vibe to it. Uh and like it worked out well because like they have some similarities. Half a Soul is definitely more like romance focused and stuff, but it has that kind of like the royal sorcerer, and like, I don't know, there's something about it that
Yeah,
like
it's
made
funny.
sense.
I wouldn't have thought to like put those together, but I can see that.
Yeah, so yeah, so it's been very fun. I've been enjoying them. They're very easy to binge through. I've been listening to the audiobooks. And yeah, I'm trying to like, now I feel like I'm trying to remember now because now I'm just like in the third one, so I'm like, what even happened in the first two?
Well, they are companion books, so it's not as
Yeah,
critical.
right, right. Um, I feel like in the second one, I was more surprised by who the love interest was,
Yes.
because it did it like based on both like characteristics of the character, because I just feel like he doesn't have the regular like characteristics that they usually give like the male love interest, but also in the audiobook she gives him kind of a goofy accent that
Oh,
I'm like,
that's
it
unfortunate because
yeah,
I
it
love
sounds
him in
like
the second
those,
book.
like one of those kind of like stuffy, like kind of stuffy nasally
Yeah.
voices that is usually kind of like a well-meaning but goofy side character
Yeah.
sort of thing. And so
That
I
makes
was
me
like,
sad because he's one of my favorite
no,
characters.
I really liked him, but I just was not expecting him to be a love interest because I was like, they are not setting him
Yeah.
up, like not giving any of the like indicators until
Right.
you get to the point where she's like, wow, and then for some reason I just wish he would leave his hand on my shoulder where it was. And I'm like, okay. So now we're having the like
Yeah.
her like falling in
I
love.
That's happened to me with, I can't remember what audiobook it was, but like there was definitely one that I distinctly had the feeling of like, oh, wait, but like you sound like the voice you're doing is like this crotchety old man, and so it's like, but
Right.
you're the love interest, which like the female character was not not like comparable, you know, like so
Mhm.
it wasn't like their voices kind of suited each other, you know.
Oh
It's
yeah.
it felt like the narrator was doing like a choice for this male character's voice that didn't like match up with with being a love interest or with like
Yeah.
matching up with the other characters. So yeah, I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, but like the voice that she did for the sorcerer in the first book was definitely like the type of voice that they do for a love interest. It
Yeah.
was very it was this, I don't know what the accent is, but it's like the same accent that, if anyone's listened to the audiobook for um Get a Life, Chloe Brown, the guy's accent in that one is the same type of accent. Anyways, that may not, I don't know how much overlap between like listening to audiobooks for this there is in people listening, but that one I like knew what was coming more. This one, the
Yeah.
second book, I was more surprised because I was like, this does not sound how they
Yeah.
normally do these voices.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I listened to Chloe Brown. Like I read that book, but I don't remember if I listened to it.
Oh yeah, I like the audiobooks a lot for Talia Hibbert's books, but I generally I like to listen to romance if I read it.
That's interesting because I really don't. I'm like, please do not read these things to me. Like,
I guess that makes sense. Yeah.
I
I
do
still
sometimes, there have been a couple where I've like played the audiobook and like read the physical copy when I'm trying to like make progress in something. So I
Mhm.
have done that, but I usually end up switching back and forth a lot. So what were you gonna say, Kelly?
Um, yeah, I don't necessarily mind about hearing the sexy parts as long as it's in my ears and not like out loud. But like then when I'm alone, I'm like, I need it to be just in my ears and not
Yeah,
like
yeah.
so my over his. But I had to stop reading Talia Hibbert. Man, I can't see her name because she used a lot of names for body parts that I was like, I can't handle these names. Like,
Yeah.
so
The word choice is so important in romance. Like,
yeah,
True.
it is
yeah.
for me. I was like, nope, I'm not enjoying that. I'm not liking what you're saying right
Yeah.
now.
There's some where it's like I find it so like distractingly unpleasant that I'm like I can feel myself lowering the rating of this book. Like
Yeah.
I mean, I that's kind of exaggerating because like all the examples I can think of are ones where I already had a lot of issues with the book. So it's not like a book I'm loving and then they do something and I'm like instant 2 stars. But it is something that I think really colors the experience. Like
Yeah.
there are some words that like feel very trendy right now and I'm like, please, I would like to never ever see this word again. Like ugh,
Yeah, I
yeah.
don't think I've had too many like problems with her word choice in like Talia Hibbert's books. Um,
Well, and it's just complete. I mean, I can't say those words right
right.
now on the
Yeah.
internet, but it's
Yeah.
just very specific words that like it doesn't matter because there's another author of a historical romance. I stopped reading hers too because she used the same words for body parts, and I'm like, no, no. There's just certain words I just cannot handle
Yeah.
Yeah.
these specific words being used, and I get they're not being used in a derogatory way.
Oh.
You probably
I
know
think
now
I
what words
yeah.
they are.
No, I hate that. I really, really hate that.
Yeah,
Like,
I cannot find that sexy, and then it just
yeah.
completely brings me out of the sexy times.
And I know that like culturally it's seen really differently in other places, but I just like yeah. I I cannot like have an enjoyable reading experience when that is used in like a it's supposed to be an appealing way.
Yeah. It just distracts me personally, so then
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, well, no, I can't do this."
Yeah. And we've talked about this before. I feel like romance is a genre that like even more than others, your personal preferences are so important to how your experience of the book goes, you know? Like
Hmm.
I don't know. I feel like more than other kinds of books, it's something that can make like little things make or break it, you know, even more than I think other genres. I mean, that's how I feel at least.
Yeah. I'm doing a try a chapter right now actually for romance because I'm trying to find new romance authors. And so I took a bunch of I want to say a bunch of people's favorites, but really I just took Bethany's favorites.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, some of these were overlaps to other people's favorites, but I'm looking at these. I'm like, these were all on Bethany's favorites, and I'm trying them to see if I think that it'll be a new favorite author for me.
Mhm.
I mean, obviously it's one chapter, so I don't know for sure, but I can sometimes with romance about how they do the meet cute know if I'm gonna like
Mhm.
the way they do the romance. Like the
Yeah.
way you introduce your characters really does, and how they introduce to each other, I feel like is pretty like important to how they're going to interact throughout the book.
Yeah.
Because there was one I am reading that it's something that I don't like that I've seen that I've like stopped reading other authors for this is when like people are meeting and you're in the character's head and the very first thought is like I'm picturing that person naked and I'm
Yeah.
like, they have not even opened their mouth yet. Like
Yeah.
you do not even know
That's
their
kind of
name.
creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, and both times it was a woman. So like, and I'm like thinking if this was a man, we would be thinking he is like a super creep.
Yeah, like a
So
predator. Yeah.
yeah. But I'm like, it's okay for a woman just to like immediately picture everyone naked like the first time
Yeah.
they meet. Like, yeah, it just that bothers me. And so I was like, okay, can I get past this and like be okay with this woman because now they've actually talked and have a conversation. But I'm like, this is your very first thought when you like first see
Yeah.
this. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
I feel
that
like genre romance, that first meet is like usually very indicative of like how I'm gonna feel about the rest of the book. Like in books that have like romances in them but they're not romance, like it's much more likely that I can be won over. Like I'm thinking of like Laura Wood, who two of her books I've really loved, and in both of the ones I've loved, the first time we meet the love interest, I'm like, I don't like you, get out of here. And then by the end I like loved him. So I think it's easier to change my mind when it's not like a, capital R romance. um Natalie says, yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. UK and Ireland specifically, different usage of the word. And I know Australia as well.
Yeah.
Um, some Latin American countries too, with the synonym in Spanish. Yeah. And I totally recognize that that is like a cultural thing that like people have different experiences with. It's just something that like my context for it is just like cannot allow me to find it appealing or flirty.
yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't really bother me, I don't think, like in the context of a romance book. I feel like I'm a lot more like I don't read a lot of romance. So I don't have like a ton of reference for this, but I also
Mm.
feel like no, I don't know. I guess I am picky about romance. I'm trying to think like, am I less picky about this or more picky about this? Because I don't read that much, but I also am like, it doesn't bother me that much. In the like, because also there are lots of things where it's like in the context, like I kind of there are a lot of things to me where it's like you kind of to me I like accept the premise of what I'm engaging with, where I'm like
Mhm.
I'm accepting the premise that I am reading a romance book. And so there are things that if it was not a genre romance, I would not like this, but I've kind of accepted the premise of like what it is I'm engaging with.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, my problem has been it's like I I know exactly what I like and don't like, and I am not that great at finding it from the synopsis. That's
mm,
what
Yeah.
I'm working on.
Well, that's yeah, why I feel like I had to try all these because I'm like, I don't it sounds good, like it has the right tropes, but then will I get on with actually how they interact together?
Yeah. I've noticed like one thing that really like bugs me in any kind of synopsis. Like sometimes it's like a fantasy book, but they use the same language for the relationship. But I really, I really hate when it's like describing, the setup of the story and it's talking about like the characters and what they're each like dealing with or whatever. And then the part about the characters interacting is like something along the lines of but he can't stop thinking about the beautifully, like the ravishingly beautiful, like so and so, even as she does blank. Like it bugs me when like there's so much detail about other stuff, and then the only description of them together is like, oh, they're both so hot and horny and they can't stop thinking about each other. Like, I find that so irritating and boring, and it's one of those things that I'm like, maybe this is just how you write a synopsis in certain like genres or kinds of books, so maybe I just need to not pay attention to that. But I don't know, it bugs me because I feel like a lot of times when that happens, it's a signal that like the physical aspect of the relationship is going to completely overshadow any kind of like personal connection, and that's not something that I like reading about. So I don't know, but I think there have been a couple times where there was a little bit of that in the summary and I just kind of ignored it, and then the book I enjoyed, like it didn't have that
Hmm.
thing. So I don't know, I have no conclusion here.
Yeah, I think one of the things that can like bother me is more so like less like language and more how much do they like lean into the extremes of like tropes, I guess. Because I can't remember what it was, but there's some romance book that I was trying to read. It was like a contemporary romance that was just too much of the trope of like she's so uptight and he's gonna like help her like loosen up, and it's like the
Yes.
trope itself is fine to me, but like it was just so like it just was like so extreme in the way that they did it, and so like you have
Yes.
to know how uptight she is and you have to know how not uptight he is, and it just
Mhm.
like I was like, just be more subtle, and like that's I don't know if that's really reasonable to ask of romance. I feel like genre romance is not always the most subtle with the tropes, so maybe it's an unreasonable expectation, but
I feel like there are some tropes that are just easier to overdo than others. Like
mm-hmm.
I I can like that kind of opposites attract sort of thing, but if it pushes too hard on the like he's gonna teach her how to live, I'm like, no. Absolutely not. Like I don't like stories where it's like you don't actually know what's best for you. This other person does. Like
Oh
that's
yeah.
not something I tend to enjoy. Um
Yeah.
so yeah.
It's almost like the like healing trope of like, because that's what it feels like. It's like, oh well, you're broken and I need to like heal you. It's like, no, like
Yeah.
maybe it's okay that I like to have things
Yeah.
organized.
Or even when it's like an introvert and an extrovert thing, I feel like it always ends up with the introvert character like coming out of their shell and like discovering the wonders of like parties and hanging out with people in large groups and stuff. And I feel like there's always this bias towards like there's always this like implicit like understanding that like, okay, well, the one who needs the most help is the quiet character. And like then usually the like really outgoing character, there'll be like a couple of little throwaway things like sometimes they like books, like it just doesn't feel like comparable to me.
Well, I think that also like I would be curious to see romances, like how that compares to romances from like other countries, because that is
Hmm.
very much an American thing to like value
Yes.
extroversion.
Yes.
Um, yeah, so
That's definitely true.
Kara, did you mention your favorite from January? I don't,
I did not. So let me,
or one you want to highlight. It doesn't have to be your favorite, I guess.
yeah. Um, I think like one of my one of my favorites from the month, and like probably one of the bigger surprises, was Fantasties by George MacDonald. Like I was not expecting that story to like make me so emotional. Um which I think you can see, like I'm working on captions for my wrap up right now, and I feel like you can tell from the way I'm trying to review it because it's like I don't know, it made me feel things that are just kind of like hard to articulate. But I loved that one, and I also really loved Post-Colonial Banter by Suhaima Manzoor Khan, which is an author that Hannah talks about all the time, and like her poetry was just really, really good. So that was another favorite for sure.
did you have any big disappointments in January? I know I just watched Huck's wrap up today. I know you had DNF, so I'm assuming those are your like disappointments.
Yeah. Let me see. I was kind of like a couple of the books and series I read were like pretty underwhelming. Like one of them was the last novella in a trilogy, and I've read like multiple things by this author, and it's like my least favorite. Like I still enjoyed parts of it, but one of the things that I really didn't like, this is The First Chill of Autumn by W.R. Gingell. And one of the main things that just kept me from having a good time with this one is I really didn't like the romance. It actually made me like kind of uncomfy. um and I feel like I've read like 4 or 5 things from this author now. And there's been a couple other books that she's written where there's been an age gap with the main characters, which is something I really have to be like sold on. But the other times she's done it, like I've ended up really enjoying it, and it felt like the characters were like still on like on equal terms. And this one did not to me, and like it just I didn't like it. And I could kind of see where it was going from the beginning. I was like, please don't do this. Like, but she did. And actually there were like 2 romances, and the other one I didn't like either. I was
Oh
like,
no.
because that character was just like obnoxious to me, and there's like kind of a chunk of the book that like it's not going to hit for you as well if you don't really care about him. So yeah, that one was kind of a disappointment. Like I still really enjoyed things from that author, but this was not my favorite from her, which was a bummer because I really liked the main character. Um and kind of like the premise and everything. I was just like, I hate your romance choices in this. Like, so
Is that a are those companions or novels or
yeah,
another?
like they're mostly companions. I think this one is the one of the 3 that actually does feel more like a sequel because you meet the characters from the other 2 books. Um but I feel like you can definitely read the first 2 as standalones. And even this one you could probably read as a standalone. You just like wouldn't know who the other characters were. But I really loved the first one, and I also really enjoyed the second. And then this one was just kind of like a letdown for me.
Yeah. I just think I can tolerate more a disappointing into a series if they're companions, because then it's not
Yes,
like
absolutely.
where if they're direct like sequels, then I'm like, well, you've ruined all the beginning ones too. But at least if they're
Yeah.
companions, you could go back and read the
Yeah.
other ones.
I think like a pleasant surprise. This one was not for the readathon because it was actually a really long book, but I read Sea Sparrow by Kristen Kishore for like the last book in our read along that we were doing, and I actually really enjoyed it. And the reason I'm surprised is that it has like most of the book are like 2 of my least favorite things, which is like ships, like traveling on a ship, and like a survival story. And I hate both of those things, but I loved the main character so much that like I didn't care. I was like, I will read you doing anything. Like, so
Well, that's good.
yeah. Yeah. Did you have any like notable disappointments, Kelly?
Yeah, mine was end of series. I finally finished the Chronicles of Narnia, and I like hated
Oh,
the last book.
yeah. The last battle, not good.
Yeah, no,
Not
not good.
good.
Luckily, like even though technically Chronicles of Narnia aren't like companion books, you could take that out because it's not
Yeah.
like because they
I
follow
think people
different.
should.
So like, there's part of me because I have a box set, but there's like part of me that's like I do not want my children to read this book, and so like I'm tempted just to get rid of the last book,
Yeah.
and then
It's
that
like we
means
lost it.
yeah, like oh no, that book never existed.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, no, I do not want my children reading this racist, horrible. Like,
Yeah. It's real bad. Like,
and even beyond the racism, the story is just not good. I'm just like, what
right. I
are
didn't
you
like the
doing?
story
What is
either. Like, and it's one of those like there are some parts where I can recognize that when this book was written, it was actually very progressive. But yeah, there's like not all of it. Not all of it. There's some
No, there's like
big
actual
problems.
slurs, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude,
Yeah.
this is not cool. Like, why are
Yeah.
you doing this?
And I feel like at least with some of the other books, like that have those elements, like The Horse and His Boy, story and character wise, it's one of my favorites. But that's the one that takes place in like Calormen. So like
Yeah.
which yeah, as you know, Kelly, it's like the vaguely Middle Eastern feeling country, and some of the portrayals are like uncomfortable, really not great. Um, but I also feel like that one, it's like Erebus is from Calormen, and I feel like she has one of the best character arcs in the whole series. And so like I feel like with some of the other books that have those issues, it's like if you do
Mhm.
choose to read those books, I feel like there are other parts that not balance them. I'm not saying like, oh, it makes up for everything, it's fine. But like, do you know what I mean? There's good aspects too, of
Yeah.
the way that like some of it is handled, and like the fact that I mean, he has like the same number of like female and male protagonists was like pretty revolutionary, and like the women are like such active characters. Like there are good things about them, but whereas with the last battle, I'm like, there's not really bright spots here. Like
Yeah.
it's pretty much all bad. So
Yeah, like and I did read The Horse and His Boy as well, and I liked that one, the story of it,
yeah,
and I could tell that yes, there were some bad portrayals, but at least he wasn't like using direct slurs
yeah,
to call like people. Like I don't think the portrayal was good, but at least the overall story was good. And so like if I
yeah,
was gonna read that with my kids, I would want to read it with them and like
to
discuss it.
discuss. Yeah,
But like the last battle, I'm like, I don't even want you to read this. Like, or
yeah.
even
Well,
without with discussion, no.
right. Well, and the other thing about like The Horse and His Boy too, it's something else that I think kind of is interesting compared to some of the places that he didn't do a great job is like Calormen is the country that it has all this really beautiful art and architecture, and the ones who are viewed as like, savages are the Narnians who have like light skin. So like there are things that I think are like contrasting with some of the like racial stereotypes and stuff. Um but yeah, not with the last battle, not so much. Not really.
Yeah, and it was
So
also really violent.
yeah.
So like I wouldn't like
I don't
as I
just like sad, like
yeah,
incredibly depressing in some ways. Like yeah.
because
So
I'm just like thinking because my daughter and I read together The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe and Prince Caspian and The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, but I wanted to stop there because I hadn't read the rest of them. So I
yeah,
read the rest to see what
good thing.
yeah, which good that I didn't like just read them with her. And there's some that I would read with her now that I've read them, but I'm like, I don't know. Like, I don't think I would do Horse and His Boy now, like, because she's
Yeah,
still pretty young. And
yeah,
then I definitely won't read The Last Battle with her. But I could do like The Magician's Nephew and Silver Chair. I think those two she could like read now.
yeah,
So that was my big disappointment. I think that
yeah,
was the only thing that I did not like in
yeah.
January.
I'll be really excited, Kelly, when you get to Steeped in Stories, because one of the books she talks about is one of the Narnia books. And I mean, just like the overall book, I really love how she talks about
Mhm.
like reading classics that have significant problems, and like how do you like talk about the good aspects while also acknowledging like the bad ones. So I think you're gonna really enjoy that one when you get to it.
Well, that was part of why I wanted to finish Narnia because I'm so
Yeah,
close. I think I just have to read Little Women, and I'm definitely reading that this year. I already have it like set to buddy read with somebody, so
cool.
I will once I read that, then I'm ready to
Yes,
to read that.
yes. Huck, did you have any disappointments you wanted to talk about?
Um, I
It doesn't
mean,
have to be from January. It could be like
yeah, I mean, I think that, like Kelly was saying, I had a couple of DNFs in January that I guess would be disappointments. Like there was that book, Priestess of the Forest, that I was really hoping to
yeah,
like.
it sounds so perfect for you. Like
Yeah, then it was just like the writing was just very awkward, and um, yeah, I don't know it. it just like the writing, she just like over described things, so it really
Yeah.
like threw off the flow of it. They were just like very stilted and kind of clunky conversations between characters. I don't remember if I said this part, but there's also like this feeling of like, so the author, I looked up a little bit about, or I like read a little bit about her, and um she like practices like modern druidism.
Hmm.
I don't know, is it druidism, druidry, I'm not really sure. um and is very into like herb lore kind of stuff,
Hmm.
which is why she wanted to write this book. And I think that she can like, you can tell that she knows a lot about herbalism, which is very cool. But also there was like stuff about the way the romance was happening where I was like, this feels very like, it feels kind of like self-inserty,
Mm.
where you would have like the guy who she's like healing, who's clearly going to be the love interest, being like, wow, and he was so impressed with her knowledge of herb lore, and that's why he was attracted to her. And like, this feels a little bit like a self-insert fantasy, and it's making me uncomfortable.
Yeah. Also that's also like I totally get, competence is attractive. Like
Yes,
that
oh
is very
yeah,
true.
but like the
But
way it
like
was done was super weird.
specifically, like, and also specifically that it's like herb lore, it's like, ooh, the way you grind that poultice, just like so
Oh god.
romantic.
Yeah, right. Like I could imagine like, yes, competence can be like attractive, but it just was like the way it was done was like
Yes.
very awkward and weird, and I was like, I don't like this.
Yes.
This
Oh,
feels weird. Yeah.
It's like, I
yeah.
feel like this is like private. Like,
Right.
why did you publish this for
Um
others to read?
anyway, like nothing weird happened. I just was
Yeah.
getting weird vibes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that one was definitely like a disappointment because I wanted to like it, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's, I am kind of feeling like, so that was part of my like project to clear out the books that have been on my shelf the longest, like on my TBR shelf the longest. And like, my goal is to just get things off of the shelf in no matter how they come off, whether it's like a DNF or a read it or whatever.
Yeah.
I do feel like the likelihood of these books being DNF'd is very high because these are the ones that I have put off reading for however
Yes.
Yeah.
many years, that I had to actively make a like challenge to force myself
Yes.
to read them. And like there are a few where that's not the case. Like the Octavia Butler book that I have on there. That's not because I don't think I'm going to like it. That's because her books are just very intense and I didn't feel like
Yeah.
I was like prepared for that. But for some of these, I'm like, yeah, I think I put these off because either my interest has changed or I got the vibe that I wasn't actually going to like it as much as I thought when I bought it.
Yeah.
So it may end up being a lot more DNFs than I originally anticipated, but that's okay.
Yes.
As long
Still
as they get
progress.
cleared out,
Yes.
that's the plan.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I did had to put Octavia E. Butler on my um books to read this year because I'm like I just need to like work myself up because I know
Mhm.
hers can be intense. Like I've liked the things I read by her, but it's like you have to be ready for the like
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You definitely have to be like mentally and emotionally prepared.
Yeah.
All right, I have accomplished 4 rows so far in the like
Yay.
hour and 15 minutes we've been doing this.
That still counts.
That's
Um,
great.
do we want to do like a silent sprint so that technically this can also be a reading sprint?
Sure.
I don't know. Does that sound good to you guys?
Yeah.
I can do whatever. I have not accomplished much. I have what have I done? I've sewed 4 things. Five things of pieces together.
Yeah.
Making
Still good.
progress.
I've gotten like a good amount done. I basically was doing from like the heel on, so I've gotten like a couple inches, it looks like.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, like a sock is so small that like yeah, you can do the you can do the rows pretty quickly, but it is very small yarn too. So
That is one of the nice things about
Mhm.
doing smaller projects, though, is that they can
yes,
get done quickly.
yes. So do we think maybe like to the 45 mark? Does that sound good?
Sure.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I will put a little banner up. Let's see.
Yeah, I might disappear and go see what my kids are doing.
Yes, I'm like I think I'm probably going to grab something to eat at some point. So we will mute our mics and come back at 45. So happy sprinting, everyone. Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. How did everybody's sprint go? Feel free in the comments to update us.
Yeah, good.
Kelly, how'd it go?
Good. I checked on the kids, made sure my husband knew what we had for dinner, and then I was listening to Emma. So that's like I'm trying to finish Emma before the end of the month, and so listening for a little bit.
Cool. I went and got gloves because I'm freezing here. Because like this like workspace area, I don't have a heater in here, and it has been really, really cold for us the last couple of weeks. So I was like suffering. So we're gonna see if I can still knit while wearing these. I think I can, but it's gonna be very slow, but that's okay. And then I also read just a little bit more of How the Word is Passed.
Ooh, I love that book.
Yeah, which is the one that you picked for me, which people will see in an upcoming video. I read just like a little bit of it, but I finished the Thomas Jefferson section last night, the Monticello one, which was like it's already so good. So I'm really glad that you like pushed me to finally read it.
Yeah, like that's someday I think my husband and I read that together, and we were saying that someday when the kids are like older, like they would be more like high school age, that maybe we would do like a family trip where we visit some of these places that's kind of educational for them.
Yeah.
Where they can like really know the real history that they might not be getting.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that was like both of us just thought that book was so good.
Yeah. Like it's not the kind of book to say like, oh, I'm enjoying it,
Yeah.
but like it's so well done.
Were you saying you were listening or reading?
No, reading it.
Okay.
I took a little break from knitting.
Okay.
And was reading some of it. So
yeah. I'm sure it's just good to read. I just like his voice. Like his voice is really a good like kind of listening voice. I'm assuming because he's a poet, he probably has done some of his poetry out loud.
Right.
But he's like very compelling to listen to.
Yeah. I actually, unusually for me, I only have 2 books I'm currently reading on Goodreads.
Whoa.
New year, new me. Like,
yeah, I am not that. I am still same old. And worse is I'm buddy reading almost all of them. I have like not all. I have 4 buddy reads that I am currently doing. So, but
so
luckily,
that's not your fault then.
No. Well, no, I mean some of them, like one of them, she's already finished, and I really should just finish it. But 2 of them are shorter things, like we're doing, like not shorter things, but short clips of things. Like disability visibility is one, so we're taking our time with that since that's like essays. And then another woman, we're doing short stories, and so we kind of took like the whole month to read the short story collection. And then the other one is Emma, and actually my buddy reader, she's like, I'm not ready to start yet, and I was like, well, I need to finish it for this month for something, so I've just been like giving her spoiler marked stuff when she gets to it.
That's a good way to do it.
Because I'm like, I need to finish in February, because it was like for another challenge I'm doing. That was like a book I had to read for that.
Yeah.
But so yeah, I have like 4. But I've been really enjoying that. I've had a lot of buddy reads this month, and that has been good at keeping me on track and reading my books instead of all the library books that are tempting me.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and I feel like I have been highly motivated to read books for my physical TBR because of the challenge that Julie and I are doing.
Yeah. Maybe I should have done a challenge like that, because I have you seen the like read what you own challenge that Izzy was
I've
doing from
I've
Happy.
seen a couple people talking about it, but I haven't like watched her video on it yet.
Well, it's just like where she has like the graphic where you can say how many books you have, like audio, ebook, and physical, and then
Hmm.
you update each month. And so you know, obviously if you buy new, then you have to add to those. And now after like January, and I was like, okay, I didn't decrease anything because even though I read a lot of my books, I bought 10 books.
Yes.
And so like it made me this month, I think I bought 3 books this month, and I was like, nope, can't buy any more because I don't want to get to the end of the month and find out that I have not decreased my number any. So it's like
Yes.
helpful to have these things where you're actually like looking at the numbers.
Yes, for sure. And that's it's like sort of what Julia and I are doing. So like she made like a spreadsheet for us that we can enter each month the books that we've taken off our physical TBR and the ones that we've added. So it's just physical TBR and it's not related to how many we started with, but it is kind of a similar like yeah, it's different when you're actually like looking at the number of books that you added. It's like, oh, okay. I need to like read some more of these. Um
Yeah, and like it's not um like I felt like I have bought a lot because it's not a lot, but when you compare with how much I've read, then it's like, oh yeah, like I have to be like reading more if I'm going to be buying more if I really want to reduce
right.
this. Sorry, my child is obviously having a hard time. I don't know if you can hear her screaming.
I hope she's okay.
Oh, she just like throws very loud tantrums. That is not her pain scream. That is a I'm not getting my way scream.
Yes.
I can tell. Because they definitely have their like there's a difference between the tantrum scream and the okay, I need to like I'm being lazy and I really should close my curtains because that light. So I'm just gonna keep like getting farther over on this chair.
Okay.
Get up and
Just
like
like inching across the floor like
because the light is so bright. I'm gonna have to close it because that's a little
I'm
intense.
back.
hello.
Hello.
Sorry I'm late. I was making tea and it was taking too long.
That's okay.
We were just discussing reading what we read.
Oh,
Yeah.
during the sprint? Or
Yes.
Yeah.
How did your
yeah.
update go? Or your sprint, not update.
I did not do a whole lot. I was checking I listened to like a few minutes of is it Long Shadow? Long Shadow, the third book in the
Yes.
Half a Soul series. That's not the name of the series, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
But then I was trying to find out if I'm waiting for some packages to arrive. And so I was like trying to remember which email I would have
Yes.
the tracking information in and trying to find out if it had come yet. And then I checked my mail and made tea. That was my thing. My packages have not arrived. I am waiting for them.
Oh,
Sounds
So
good.
I'm waiting for skincare if anyone's curious.
exciting.
So I recently actually my big like excitement the other day was that was it 2021 my favorite sunscreen at the time was discontinued because there was a problem with the formula. I don't know if you like were following that there was a point when a lot of Korean manufacturers of sunscreen found that like some study found that they were like not manufacturing their sunscreen correctly, and so a lot of them did not have the amount of like sun protection as they were saying, and so a
Oh,
lot
wow.
of brands were affected by that. And the brand that I liked it's like based in the US, but they used a Korean manufacturer who was one of the ones that like was found to like be having these issues.
Hmm.
So they like discontinued their sunscreen and they were like working on reformulating it. And I have been like following like their social media, like their website, everything to try and figure out when it was coming back. And there was no indication that it was. And then like on Thursday, I got an email that was like, guess what? Our sunscreen's back. And I was like, immediately bought it. Like within 10 minutes of getting that email, I had ordered it. And so now I'm waiting. And it said, I was surprised how quickly, like it said it was supposed to come today at some point. So I'm very excited though.
That is exciting. Natalie said, read a picture book. Very cool. Do you want to share which one? I was fishing for one of my needles under my desk, so. Double pointed needles are so tiny, like sock needles, that is a hazard. Okay.
So I last week, since I'm new to this whole crocheting thing, last week I went to my library has a yarn club, and I went last week, and I'm like, I get to go to a yarn club.
Yeah.
Like it was kind of a B format, where people are just like doing their projects or whatever.
Yes.
And chatting. And so like there was only like 4 of us because this was the morning group. So it was like while my daughter was at preschool. And this woman came in and was like, I bought this yarn and I hate it and I just can't do anything with it. So I'm just bringing it in case anybody wants it. And then she left and just like dropped off all this yarn. And I'm looking at these ladies. All these are like older ladies. They've been like doing this stuff forever. And I was like, I'm new to this and I don't have a stash. I would take it if nobody else wants it. So now I have like all this like super expensive, like not like super expensive, but it was not like cheapo yarn. It was like $8 a skein yarn. And I'm like, ooh, I'll take that yarn. And I think she had like 9 skeins of it or something like that. So
wow,
like, that's really cool.
Could make a whole project with 9 of like one type of. Was it one type of yarn or like different kinds?
Well, it's the same brand, but there's 2 colors. But I'm like, well, I could still, if I want to do one project, you could alternate, a little bit because they're complementary colors. Like,
oh, that's nice.
Very cool. In a Small Kingdom by Tommy DePaola, illustrated by Doug Salati. Probably Tommy DePaola's millionth book, but the first for the illustrator, so that was cool. Oh. It was sweet. Tommy DePaola is a classic. Yeah, some of those were like our favorites. So that's interesting that he's working with other illustrators too.
Yeah, because he's got a very specific. I'm assuming a lot of his were illustrated by him because like I picture his picture books like.
Yes, very distinctive.
We've read a lot.
I know those. I don't know if I'm familiar with those picture books. I'm gonna look it up now.
Yeah, look it up because you might have because there's a ton of them.
Yeah.
Because we've read a lot of them in homeschool because he has a lot that are like related to different folk tales from different cultures. So like we've done them when we were doing like around the world. Yeah. Strega Nona, I think, is like one that's
I think
that was one of our favorites.
The only one I recognize, but I'm not sure if I even read that one so much as I just saw the cover.
Yeah. We also, one of the other favorites was the one that was like almost like an autobiography where it's about him like drawing in school and like having like wanting to have like the fancy markers, like not just the 8 colors. And that was another one that we loved as kids.
Oh, cool. Yeah, he's got so many that it's like hard to say.
Yes.
Like you can read them all. Like, yeah. I think the one we own, we only own like one of his, and it's like the one about like it's these people that got a magic potato seed and end up with a giant potato. It's an island. And when I try to read it to my daughter, I try to like use an Irish accent, and it's really bad. I will not subject you to it, but but yeah, it's like a fun one.
Yeah,
but we only own that one because it was a library book, and my daughter spilled hot chocolate all over it. So now we paid for it, and it's ours.
Did you guys ever read Crinkle Root? picture
No, I
books.
don't think
They're
so.
so cute. Oh my god. It's like about this old man who looks like a gnome, but he's not like a gnome, but he looks like one. And he just like they're all like about nature. So there's one that's about trees and there's one that's about birds and like he just walks around and like tells you facts about nature and stuff and it's just like it's adorable and they have
That
such cute
does sound
illustrations.
adorable.
And actually his name is his name Crinkleroot or Sassafras? I can't remember. But he's so cute.
I've realized that I think I need to alternate between wearing gloves and doing things with my hands because it's really hard to knit with these, but my hands are so cold. Like,
Oh, is it cold?
yes. So, I was telling Kelly when we got back, one of the things I did is I went and got my gloves because it's been really cold for us the last like couple weeks and um the like space I'm in right here, I don't have any heat like at all. Um so I'm freezing. Like I mean like my sweater is nice and warm, which is good, but I'm wearing like leggings under my pants. And
Mm,
I
Oh,
like went and got fuzzy gloves because it's like pretty cold. And it's also like really windy over here, so like the actual temperature versus what it feels like is
mm-hmm.
different. So
Yeah.
so when you say cold, I mean, I guess you
I
don't have heat, so I guess that could be.
it's like cold for us. Like I'm not saying that it's like comparable to what you guys get, but
But
let me look
obviously, you
at
don't have heat. Like this, like it's more
Yeah,
common.
like having heating makes a difference.
Yeah,
yeah, let
Like
me look at
when
yeah, it's 48 degrees right now.
well, without heat, that's chilly. Like
Right.
that's
That's the thing is like I have no
yeah,
heat in here, so
yeah. I used to have to layer like that when I was in college, like because the like dorms I was in, they had heat, I guess, but they like it did not do anything.
yeah.
And you could literally feel the wind come through the walls. Like there was a breeze inside
Yeah.
the dorm, and it was so weird. And so I would end up like with leggings and then sweatpants over the leggings. I would
Mhm.
have like a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, a hoodie, a hat, the hood over the hat, like two layers of like small like regular socks and then poofy socks and then like under the blanket.
Yep.
Because I was in school in Pennsylvania near close enough to Lake Erie to get the lake weather that it would be like
Yeah.
super cold.
Yeah. I did a semester abroad in Ireland and their heating system is like a it's almost like pay per use. Um and it was like pretty expensive. And so like me and my two roommates we like didn't it was also kind of a hassle to remember to like put the money on the card that you would use to like operate the heater. It was kind of weird.
Mhm.
And it was also just a lot of money. So like we didn't use it very often. And I remember like Skyping with my family and my mom was so angry. She's like, "You need to turn your heater on." Like she's like looking at me in like my multiple sweaters and the fact it's like I always like slept in like my sweatshirts and everything because it was
Yeah.
just like so cold all the time.
Yeah. Where I am, like it was we our weather's been very weird that on Thursday it was like 80 degrees and it snowed today.
Yep.
Not
yeah,
hard, but like what happened?
Yep.
yeah. We're the same way. Thursday was in the 70s, short sleeves, and then today there was just a little bit of snow,
Yeah.
just a little
Yeah, like
flurry.
in our yeah, the snow didn't stick or anything. It just like very lightly snowed all day today.
Yeah.
It's bizarre.
Yeah, I went on like a walk this morning with the kids. Like we went to the library and walked around because it was sunny out, and there were like crocuses poking up everywhere, and I'm like, "Oh, poor little flowers, you're gonna die."
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a magnolia like right near me that is blooming and I was like, I hope you survive the cold snap. Like
Yeah.
so
Bree says, just finished the final clips for a video. Very nice. Yeah, I don't know what I'm gonna do when I need to film something again because, again, no heat. Um,
Just be really cozy.
yeah, I'll just wear a blanket
I was gonna
basically.
say, just like bring a blanket with you.
Yeah,
That's
I might do that
that's the
actually.
answer. That's what I
I
used to
have
do.
totally, yeah. Oh, I was I've totally recorded with a shawl, like a big like blanket shawl on me, and I'm like,
Yes,
you guys are just gonna deal with it because I'm cold. And
Yeah.
yeah. And just to reiterate, I know that this is not like excessively cold. It's cold when you don't have a heater.
Yeah.
well, if you don't have a heater to like take off the like, when it's
Yeah.
brisk,
Yeah. Yeah, Brie, because like it's not even that my heater is out. It's like this area, like this room doesn't have any heat. So like it's very cold. And actually like a lot of yeah, like our infrastructure is just not made for this kind of
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot
weather.
of times the problem is like if it's weather that you don't normally get in that area, then you're just like not prepared for it.
Yeah. We had like yesterday, we had I don't think it was for very long. I like missed it. I heard about it from somebody else. But like our area had like a tornado warning for just like a few
Huh.
minutes. And I was like, what? Like that is not one of the natural disasters that we are usually like
Right. I see
prepared
where I
for.
am, we do get tornado warnings. We don't normally have to worry about like they don't normally touch down or anything near me,
Yeah,
but
that's
we do
probably
get
what it
warnings.
was. Yeah, that's probably what it was for us too, is like it almost certainly wasn't going to happen, but they're like technically these wind patterns could be, you know, but
Yeah, yeah.
we were also getting like a ton of like flood warnings.
Mhm.
Like the emergency system in my county like had multiple like messages that they sent out and like automated phone calls that were like, do not leave your house if you don't absolutely have to, like if you are out, get somewhere safe. Like it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, Natalie, also very cold on the west coast. Yeah, that's the thing, is like there are places in California that are actually pretty chilly because of where you are relative to the ocean. um Says lost your northeast temperature hardiness. Yeah. Yep.
well, I mean, we lived in Texas for like a couple of years, and I feel like when we moved back up here, I had to like build back up that
Hmm.
like being able to be in the cold because it was just like there was no real cold,
Yeah.
Mm.
like what might be considered cold down there, but I was like, this is not cold. But then I would come up here and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so
Yeah.
cold.
Yeah. I also feel like it's something where like after a certain level of discomfort, it not that it doesn't matter, but it's like it's kind of it feels equally unpleasant almost. Like um
Mhm.
we obviously deal with like heat more than other places, and especially like when I was in college, it's like am I like noticeably more uncomfortable when it's like 100 degrees out versus like 94? It's like, yeah, but 94 is still miserable. Like I still don't like it. So,
Yeah. I think also back to like it also depends on how prepared you are for it cuz like if you
yes.
don't generally have like the right like the clothes for it, then it's going to feel a lot colder too.
Yes.
That's is it I can't remember. I feel like my mom always quotes being like, "Oh, like the Swedes always say there's no bad weather, just bad clothing," or something like that.
That would make
um,
sense for Swedish
right,
people. It's
right.
like
It's just like how prepared are you for the cold?
yeah. Yeah. That is a big part of it.
Yeah.
I feel like I have to just sit here now because I can't really use my hands with their gloves. So I'm just
It's
gonna
like having a
hang out.
thimble.
Yeah. thimbles over my hands, my entire hands. My hands do feel nice and warm though, so it's worth it. But
That's good.
good thing I got some knitting done earlier.
I
Also,
wonder if you had sleeveless, or not sleeveless, fingerless gloves, if that would work.
I do own some, but my fingers were so cold that I was like, fingerless would not help me. Like,
See, this is
but
the
I
thing
have
is,
used those.
I enjoy fingerless gloves as like I like the look of them, but I have never felt like they were useful to me because I'm like, my fingers are the cold part. The palm of my hand is not cold. Why are you keeping this part warm?
Yeah.
This is my same problem with like uh a lot of times when I go outside, if if it's cold and I'm going for a walk, my problem is not like I don't like vests because most of the time my core very warm, my arms very cold, and
Yes.
like I just want sleeves, no like not that I wouldn't wear a shirt, but like I don't need like a full coat. I just want the sleeves of the coat and then like a normal shirt, you know.
So like a shrug almost.
Maybe, I guess. I don't know. I just feel like because there was also a point where I was like very into running, and a lot of like clothes that you get for those kind of like in between weather are like things that keep your core warm. And I'd be like, I hate this because especially once you get going, I'm like,
Yeah.
my core overheats. My arms are still cold.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Just like wearing giant sleeves.
Yeah.
Like,
Just the sleeves of the coat.
just sweater sleeves, like that you
Yeah.
could like tie together.
That's what I need.
I mean, that is kind of like a shrug.
Kind of, yeah. Like a bolero.
Yes. Yeah. Or it's almost like I think it was like the Regency period or maybe a little before that where like their sleeves would actually like attach separately to the torso of their dress. Like they would actually have little ties, I think, that they would like
Oh, you mean like the ones
attach.
where it would like tie at the shoulder?
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So kind of like that.
Exactly. I was be like, I'm just being historical,
Yeah.
not weird.
I'm
sorry.
cosplaying. I'm not strange. Like
You're right.
I missed what you were saying because that's when my daughter came in and started feeding the cat.
Oh, I was complaining about the fact that most of the time I like my core overheats, but my arms are cold. And so I'm like, I don't want a vest. I want the opposite of a vest. I
Oh,
want just the arms, but not like a jacket like on my body, like my core.
yeah.
we were discussing like what piece of clothing that could be. Like,
Right, like a shrug kind of thing, or
yeah.
like, yeah, I just need like sleeves that I can like. Actually, I feel like that's kind of a thing right now. I think they look silly, but there are like fashion things where it's like just sleeves and then it's like a turtleneck and it just sort of like connects
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, actually
And
I've seen those.
yeah, I guess I always look at that and go like, why would you want that? But maybe they have the same problem I do.
Yeah. And you could always like wear that part like under the shirt so that you don't have to look at the silly turtleneck.
Yeah.
I always like I see people wearing vests, like warm, like the down vest. I'm like, oh, that looks warm, and then I wear it, and I'm like, my arms are cold. Like,
Right.
what is
Yeah.
this? Like,
The thing
why
is,
am I wearing this? Like, I
the
don't.
actual but vests are not, I think, originally meant to be worn in that way. Like those kind
Yeah.
of down vests are intended to be worn under a jacket.
Yeah, to like heat up your
Mm.
core when you're like skiing or something like that.
Yeah,
or
yeah.
But yeah, it's like this fashion thing, and I'm like, I don't get it because
Yeah, I don't get it either. I'm like, this is the opposite of what I need.
Yeah.
because then I'm like, well, then I just like have cold arms. I don't get this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There have been times, and like we get kind of like a lot of in between weather, so I guess this makes sense. There have been times where like I've put on a vest and I've been surprised because I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, this is like the amount of warmth that I needed.
Mm.
But if I'm like really cold, I'm not gonna put on a vest. I'm gonna put on like a jacket.
Yeah.
Or like there's
True.
those sweater dresses that are sleeveless, like, but they have like a turtleneck sweater, and I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't understand when I would wear this, because
Yeah.
if I'm old enough to wear a turtleneck, I would like sleeves.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't.
So I feel like going back to the fingerless gloves, what I need is like just the fingers
Right.
that are then like tied together, but not on the palm.
Just like individual, like little, like
Individual little like
tubes,
finger socks.
finger tubes. Yeah.
Yeah, but they need to be tied together so they don't just like fall off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like I'm picturing it's like spider hands, like you're doing like a puppet show or something.
Yeah.
Like
Oh my
just got
god.
all these like strings in your palms. Like, oh,
Yes.
that's a pretty teacup.
Thank you. It's from Anthropology. This one has an owl on it. It has
I
a
like
different
it.
owl on the other side. This one has a barn
Gotta
owl,
show
I
off.
think.
Cute.
Gotta show off my mug. It's Frida Kahlo.
Ah.
I love it. And on the inside it says, "Feet, what do I need you for when I have wings to fly?"
Oh.
That was one of her quotes. So my mom got this for me a few years ago because I love Frida Kahlo. And I appreciate that they kept her unibrow. Like, it really irritates me when like I see designs that are like inspired by her and they've like gotten rid of that. I'm like, that was like a very specific part of her image that
Yeah,
she
I feel
felt
like
really
that's kind of
strongly
how
about.
you know it's Frida Kahlo. Like it's kind of
Yeah.
iconic.
Yeah, and not just like, oh, that's a very distinctive trait she had, but like she very specifically wanted to keep that as like a protest against like certain beauty standards and things. So it's like,
Yeah.
how, like, don't do that to Frida.
Yeah. Well, then it's like, you know, that the people who are doing that, it's like they don't actually know any. Like,
Yeah, like,
yeah.
not like I'm an expert on her,
Well,
but
no, but like I know almost nothing about her, but I know that her unibrow
yeah,
is like an important part.
it
Like,
matters. Yeah,
yeah. Like that's how if I see a picture, I would be like, "Oh, I know who that is." Like it's part of who she
exactly,
is.
exactly. Um, I'm still actually looking for like a really good like biography or nonfiction about her. Um, or like, yeah, just one that people say is like a good one because
Mhm.
I've like picked up bits and pieces about her, but I'd like to
Mhm.
actually read more about her. But a lot of the ones I've looked at, it's like the reviews are not very good and doesn't sound like it's going to be a good one. So we will see.
Yeah.
I haven't read an adult one. We studied her we did several different artists last year and read like children's biographies about like children's book biographies.
Yeah.
Right.
A 4-year-old wrote a biography about Frida Kahlo.
Like written by adults, but for children. Yeah, we
Yeah.
read several of those, and I learned a lot about her.
Yeah.
But I'm sure wasn't a lot of details because I know there was a lot of stuff with her marriage that they wouldn't have put into a children's book.
Yes. Yes. Yeah, I'm not the biggest fan of her husband from what I've read, but then like I've seen things more recently that are her own her own words about their relationship, and I'm like, okay, well, it sounds like you guys kind of agreed on what your marriage was going to be like, so I guess you were okay with it. I'm still mad on your behalf, but I guess it's not fair. Like, I don't know. But yeah, there's a lot of that wouldn't be appropriate in a children's book. Like,
No, I mean I think they mostly focused on the fact that she had the injuries to her body
yes,
and like how she used
yes,
art as a way to be able to express herself when she couldn't move and like
right.
and so um and my daughter just really liked her artwork, and so we did several projects because it's very
Yeah,
colorful and floral and
yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know if I'd be able to move my computer so you can see it, but I actually have like I assume it's a reproduction of like a painting of hers that my mom also got me like a couple years ago. I don't know how I'd be able to show it though. Maybe I could take a picture. I don't know. Continue discussing as I try to figure this out. I have no idea if this is going to work, but we'll try.
yeah, it was the one thing about that study though, we're following a book and like doing the artists from the book, but I was a little disappointed by the lack of female artists in it.
Yeah.
And so if I was going to do it again with my younger one, I would add things in beyond what the
Yes.
book had, because there was only like 2 female artists that we studied, and I was like, there's been
Yeah.
plenty of other female artists.
There's this nonfiction book I really want to read just based on like the title and premise, and it's something like The History of Art Without Men or something. And I'm like,
Ooh, I should check that out.
yeah. I'm gonna see if I can find the title of it. But here is, maybe you'll be able to see. This is the
Oh
art
yeah.
piece I have. So yeah, I like
Oh.
her style as well. Just like
Mhm.
really like distinctive. And I'm always impressed when like a visual media is like emotional, you know? It's like, I don't know. I'm not an art major. I don't know these things, but it's like impressive to me. Okay, let me see if I can find that book. Since I can't knit right now.
At some point, I'm going to have to measure this and figure out when I need to stop.
I cannot get these to line up. Cool. Now, everybody talks about Half a Soul, like as you were talking about earlier. I'm like, I need to read that book, but there's a plan. It's gonna happen. I'm holding out. I'm waiting for the plan.
I think, wasn't it on one of these live streams that like that idea was born? Like,
Yes.
Wait, what? I don't know what we're talking about.
oh, wait, maybe. Was it
Were you
maybe
not
when,
there?
like, I thought you were. Maybe. Wait,
What?
what other
you
live
said it.
stream would we have been on?
You know the like whole thing where people are like, recommend me 12 books, and they get the recommendations from different friends.
Oh, I do remember talking about that. My memory is
like-
very bad, so like,
Yeah. When I said I didn't want to do it because I don't like trust random like 12 people to pick books from me, but that I would,
oh
I
right,
would trust Kara to pick
I
out.
remember this now.
So my like April of Kara is coming up.
Yes. I can't wait. Like,
But I've been doing really good because like there's some of those books I like. There was a couple of them that were middle grade, and I almost pulled them because they fit like the prompts, and I was like, no,
yeah,
I'm not gonna do it for
you
the month of March. I'm waiting.
you totally can read them early if you want to. I have plenty of others I could pick from.
Well, I have plenty of middle grade books I can read next month. I can like
Okay.
wait and like, but I do have to read Ghost next month in preparation.
Right.
But yeah, I'm excited. But like I
I'm
basically have
excited.
my planned.
This is like a present for me, and you're doing the video. I love this. Like,
It'll be great because I feel like you're gonna pick better than I would pick for myself.
I hope so. I hope so. I'm still trying to find this book.
And maybe it'll help me not read library books that month, because that's what with middle grade March next month I was like, okay, I'm only gonna pick my books to go with middle grade March because I own a lot of middle grade books, and I just really need to like stop the temptation of getting all of the library books.
Yeah.
I need to
Yep.
read my own books.
Okay, I just found the title was a little different. That's why I couldn't find it for a while. It's called The Story of Art Without Men by Katie Hessel. I'll put the link in the chat if anybody is interested.
Cool.
Okay. I think I need to do like another inch or so of this, and then I have to start. I guess I'm going to have to decide if this is the front or the back. And then I guess I assumed it's the front. And then I have to start shaping it a little bit. I don't know.
That's like one of the nice things I feel like about knitting is that you can do seamless things. Like I didn't have to sew any pieces together for this.
Mm.
Like, I mean, there was a lot of like shaping and like adding stitches and, you know, counting and all of that, but there are patterns in knitting that you don't have to seam anything, which I love. I don't know if that's something in crochet that you can do
Oh
or not.
yeah, you can. Well, I don't know about in a sweater, but you could like this specific stitch I'm doing, Tunisian knit stitch. I don't think you can do in the round, but
Okay,
most crocheting you can. Just
that makes sense.
it just depends on how you set it up.
Okay.
But Tunisian knit stitch is more like it feels more like a typewriter where you kind of like go one way and then you have to like reset to and like
Yeah.
it just kind of goes back and forth for
It's
one
kind
line.
of it sounds like knitting and crochet like combined almost, because it's like Tunisian is the one where you end up with multiple stitches on your crochet hook, right?
Yeah, you put like everything onto one hook.
Which is more like knitting, I feel like. So,
Yeah, it's kind of like you get all of the loops on your hook and then you kind of just have to bring the yarn all the way back through. Like
okay.
you're doing stitches, so there
Yeah.
are individual stitches, but essentially you're trying to get all the loops on one side and then pulling the like yarn back the other way.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems hard.
Yeah, it takes a long time. I've done 6 rows this entire time and it's like this is not the most giant thing, you know? Like it's a pretty fine yarn, so it's not like chunky or anything. So it's not going super fast, but it should.
Yeah.
If it was normal crocheting, I feel like it would go a lot faster. Because
I'm
for
already,
one row, you have to do like double the work.
Yeah.
I'm already like super slow at crochet. Like the Afghan I'm working on, my mom, when she was visiting, she's like, I like that pattern. I think I'll make that for somebody. And like she was here for a week and she only started this project halfway through her time here. And she was farther along than I am. And I've been working on this for over a month. And I'm like, show off.
I know. I
Fast
mean,
there.
she's been doing it forever though.
Yeah, like her whole life. I'm like, I get it, but I'm like, stop doing the
Yeah,
same thing
it's
with
like
me and going super fast.
it still makes me sad. Cut it out, mom.
Do something else. I don't care. That way I can
Yeah.
have the illusion of that this is a hard thing.
Yeah.
And she was using the exact same color basically that I am, and so I'm like, okay, this is like worse. Like that you're basically doing the exact same thing as me.
Right? It's like stop doing my project faster and better. Like
Oh well.
oh, I don't think I updated you guys. Did I tell you I like learned how to read charts?
I don't think so.
This thing that I have been putting off for like literally the entire time I've known how to knit. I finally did it and I'm embarrassed that it didn't take that long. But okay, the funny thing about it is that like I basically did it out of laziness because I was making a cabled headband um and there was like the fancy so like the knit side was where all the cabling and like all the fancy stuff happened, and then when you go back the other way it's basically just knit and purl, like there's not anything too complicated about it. And I always just used the written out instructions, but I actually found that like it was sometimes a little hard to like count stitches for like the easy side, and I was like okay, I can like use the written instructions for the complicated stuff and I'll just flip back and forth to the less complicated stuff and use the chart for that. And I did that for like 1 or 2 rows and I'm like, this is so irritating having to turn the pattern over every single time. So because I was too lazy to do that, I taught myself how to do an entirely new thing so that I could just use the chart.
That's great.
Yeah, so now I know how to do charts.
Well, there
Good
you go.
job.
Learn a new skill.
There you go. all because I didn't want to do something.
Well, it's good motivation.
Yes, yes.
I feel like my kids are making a whole lot of noise, but I don't know how much you're hearing.
I
only
don't
hear
think
a
I can
little
hear
bit.
anything right now.
It's very quiet to me.
Okay, good. My husband was like apologizing. I'm like, it's fine. I'm not dealing with them. I don't care what they're doing. Like,
Like, this is on you. Have fun.
yeah. I mean, I basically told him when he got home, I'm like, I'm gonna need you to like do a lot of time with the kids because I just need a break.
Yeah.
So like today I had them in the morning and we went to the library, went for a walk and everything, but then basically after lunch he's had them the rest of the day. And I just like needed time away because I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
it's been even though my mom was here visiting, like she, she's relaxing and like spending time, grandma time. She's not disciplining.
Right, right.
And I'm like, I'm tired of disciplining.
Yes.
They're in like major fighting time. I don't know if this is just like the new norm because they're getting older, that like that this is just the sibling rivalry that's gonna like be the basis. Like, I mean, they do a lot of stuff together, but then they just like fight constantly. I'm like, oh gosh.
Yeah. I mean, when we were little, there was definitely a period where me and my brother fought a lot, and that eventually did like just kind of stop happening. So it might just be like a phase sort of thing. I don't know. Obviously, like kids are all different, but
And
I
I
was
mean, oh sorry.
no, go ahead.
And a lot of the like people are like, oh, you just let them like work it out. And I'm like, but like, do other people's kids devolve their fights devolve into like fighting each other and like
Right, that's
and, like drawing blood? Like, I mean, like, you can't just let them do that.
right. Yeah, there were definitely times when me and my brothers like there was actual bloodshed. Like
I'm like, there's a difference between letting them argue and like letting them seriously injure each other.
yes. Yeah.
I don't remember my memory is so bad that I'm like I barely remember if like I fought with my brother, but I don't remember. I knew we ended up in kicking fights a lot as a kid,
Mm,
where we would be like you would lie on the couch and just like kick each other.
classic, yeah.
Yeah, that happened quite a lot.
Yeah. I was just looking at the books I plan to read in February. I've actually read quite a few of these. Good for me. That almost never happens anymore.
Look at you.
I don't
And
think I've
actually,
read any of the books that I planned to read.
Because you did a TBR, didn't you?
I did, and I haven't read any of them.
I mean, TBRs are still fun though. It's like I
No, I
feel like
DNF'd one of them, so I did start it, and then I
there you go.
DNF'd it. So
I feel like TBR planning is like a separate activity from reading.
honestly, yes. Like you know how people say like book buying and book reading are two different hobbies. Like
Yes.
making TBRs and reading TBRs are two different hobbies.
Yeah.
And like that's essentially the feedback that I got on that video was a lot of people being like, make TBRs anyway. No one cares if you read them. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
Then we're all good because that is essentially what's going to happen.
Because
Yes.
I don't like police anybody and be like, oh, you did not read. I watched your TBR and you didn't read it.
Yeah.
Like,
No,
I
it's
them
not
because
that
like
I think someone's going to police me. It's more that I like feel bad that like sometimes people get excited, like, oh, I'm so excited you're going to read this. And then
Yeah.
I feel like I'm disappointing them
we
because
won't remember at the end of the month we said that.
I know.
Like, I don't know the other people. I mean, I might say that because I am excited that someday I might hear you read about it, but doesn't mean like if you didn't do it.
I know. No, that's the thing is that like when I watch other people's TBRs, I like it's totally fine. It's one of those things where it's like it only applies to me.
Yeah. No,
So yeah.
I feel the same. Is like I feel like I'm letting people down if I like don't read. Um a book that they like commented about being interested in, and I like never feel that way about other people. So it
Right.
has helped though doing my like super chill TBR game, because it feels just like a lot more of a loose guideline, which is what TBRs are supposed to be anyway.
Yeah.
But I just put pressure on myself for no reason. So by like having it be like forcibly forced chill, it helps me a lot.
Yeah. I have like I actually have been debating if I was going to do it. Like I want to do more TBRs, but I was debating if I wanted to do one for March specifically, just because I feel like a lot of the things that I wanted to read in February but didn't, I'm like I still kind of want to read those in March. So I feel like I should just roll over that TBR.
Yeah.
But I also am
You
like,
do a video that's like 17 seconds and it's like same.
yeah,
Like
be like as per my last video.
yeah.
Although I also am like very much in a specific reading mood that I have books for, but I'm not sure how to explain exactly what it is. Like it is sort of like books that give me vaguely spring vibes, but I'm not sure why. You know? So we'll see if I read those, but those are the ones that I'm like thinking of reading.
Yeah.
I also have some books which those a lot of those overlap with books that I want to read for a specific recommendation video that I want to make, but I need to like read more
Yeah.
things in order to like try and make that happen. But those books overlap with the mood that I'm in, so I'm like, oh, maybe this will work out.
Yeah. Yeah. I think part of the problem for me is that like TBRs are supposed to go up like at the beginning of the month,
Mm-hmm.
which means that you have to film them at the end of the previous month. And if I film that and I start talking about all the books I want to read in the next month, I'm like, well, now I want to read all of these
Yeah.
instead of the things I'm
I just want to read
supposed to.
them now.
I know.
Yeah, and
Do
I
that too.
sometimes do read one or two early, but like I try not to do that too much, even though I know it doesn't really matter. But I don't know. That's one of the things that happens with me a lot. Kelly, you said you too.
I do that too. Like I'm like, well, now I'm all excited and I want to
Yeah.
read all of these. But then of course I've got like 5 books I'm in the middle of reading, so then it's like, what? I need to like, and then I've lost interest in those because now I want to read all of these.
Yeah. Yep.
It's
Like,
hard.
well, now I've gotten myself in this specific reading mood, and I can't do anything about it until next month.
Yeah. I feel like my reading mood did a real like 180 in February because the first like when the month started, I was really like I'm going to read like historical fiction. And then it just went like I want just like light fun fantasy, like
Yeah.
things that give me fun spring vibes.
Yes. Yes.
But I think a lot of that also is that like mid-February, like 2 weeks ago, I started a new job, and so the first half of February I like didn't read anything because I was like stressed about that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of was like, I don't know, starting a new job takes up a lot of brain space,
Mhm.
you know.
It does. It really does.
But then like last weekend, I hadn't been reading anything during the week, and then last weekend I read like a bunch of stuff over the weekend, and so I'm like, well, I might be back to. I've been trying to get better at like reading consistently through the week, but I am like falling back to my pattern of just like binging a bunch of things over the weekend, which isn't bad. I just would like to consistently read throughout the week because I enjoy it, but I don't always make time for it.
Yeah. I had like this like weird phase like a week ago, maybe not even weird, but it just like it happened to be that I was in the middle of a lot of things that were like essay collections or like short story collections, like things that I felt like would be more suited to reading in small bits. And it's like, but I want to finish stuff.
Yeah.
And what I kind of ended up doing is like just like finishing them anyway, or like focusing on like one or two like over a few days, like not to the extent that I like wasn't enjoying the book or anything. um but I don't know, it was just weird because I never end up with that many like short form things at the same time, because like I generally like to read in big chunks when I can. um And so I was just like, I feel like I'm not getting anything like finished. And it's like, no, you just need to like calm down. Like you just need to like read slow and steady instead. But I'm not used to that. So
Yeah. And I feel like some of those short story collections, if you push them too much, then it's like everything blends together. And like, do you remember anything
yeah.
about any of the specific stories?
Yeah. I like sometimes I usually will track my ratings as I go, and sometimes I'll do like for the specific stories, and sometimes I'll do just like a sentence or two about my thoughts for each one, which helps, but there's some that I don't do that for. And yeah, I definitely feel like there's like the danger of it just kind of blending all into one experience. Um yeah. But then like one of the ones I read that I finished recently was Women, Race, and Class by Angela Davis. And that is technically an essay collection, but it just feels like a complete nonfiction book. Like it's so cohesive. Um, it was really, really good. I mean, it sounds like silly to be like, yeah, Angela Davis is a good writer. It's like
Yeah.
obviously
Yeah.
like she's an icon of intersectional feminism. It's like, yeah, her book's pretty good, guys. Like
Maybe you guys should read this. Have you ever
yeah,
read it?
I know. But it was really, really good. It was just like an interesting one because like I wouldn't have even known it was an essay collection if I didn't see it labeled that way.
I think it's still good to like talk about those that are because sometimes I need to be reminded. Oh, like, oh yeah, I really want to read her stuff. Like,
Yeah. Well, and I think I've maybe read little like excerpts, like tiny ones in like various classes and things, but I had never read like a full work of hers
yeah,
until this. So I'm so glad that I finally did. Um yeah, but I feel like that too is like even like really famous ones, it's not like you forgot about it, but it's good to still have like that kind of reminder of like, oh yeah, I'm excited about this. Like I want to get to that. Like I actively want to get to that.
yeah.
So
Did you did you finish reading Bittersweet? I can't remember.
no, it's one of the ones that like I am lying to Goodreads about the fact that I'm in the middle of it. Like so no, I haven't finished it yet.
Yeah, I haven't either. I think I'm maybe like 40 or 50% in.
Okay.
And then I like put it down. And part of that is because I'm buddy reading it with my mom and she has not been reading. I'm like, "Mom, get it together."
You're
But
slowing me down, Mom.
yeah, but also a lot of it is because I don't know how you feel about the book. I felt like I saw somebody else review the book saying who said like exactly how I was feeling was like this did not need to be a book. It should have been a long essay. And I was like, I very much agree. I feel like the best part of the book was the introduction, which essentially gave you everything you needed to know, and then the rest of the book
I
has been kind of like, all right, this is more detail than
yeah.
I feel like is really necessary.
I think like well, I'm not as far as you are, I don't think, but I'm so far really enjoying it. But I think that is partly because I relate to a lot of the specific things she's talking about. So I
Yeah.
enjoy getting all of the examples, even though like, yeah, a lot of nonfiction, you can pretty much boil it down to the introduction, you know, like
Yeah.
so it's
Well, yeah,
kind
I
of
guess.
about how engaged you can stay in the rest of it. Cause like I'm still I also don't know as much about like personality and psychology as you do. So I think maybe that might also be helping me. Like maybe I'm just here to have a good time. Like
I don't know.
it's like, yeah, Susan, I cry at everything. Tell me why. Like
I just actually I think though that is a point that because I read her other book Quiet also, and I think that I don't remember how I felt about it in terms of like whether it needed to be a full book or not. Like I feel like I was like, yeah, that makes sense that it was a full book. I do feel like I had kind of a similar reading experience with them in that I think her books in particular are really dependent on how relatable they are to you.
yeah.
And like I felt very meh about Quiet also. not because I'm not an introvert. I am an extremely introverted person. But I think that it is most, from what I can tell, it seems like it is most often most impactful for people who have experienced other people like putting them down for being an introvert and for being
Oh,
like
yeah.
quieter and more reserved. And so
Yeah.
then it's this real, like, it's very cathartic or makes them feel vindicated or like gives them a feeling of I'm not the only one or something like that. And like, I guess people have like sometimes been weird to me about being an introvert, but I've always just been like, look, this is not my problem. I am having a great time doing things the way I want to and not talking to you. So like if you don't like it, you don't have to talk to me. And so like her book was Quiet was interesting, but I didn't get that same like connection to it because I have never really like I haven't had that same experience of being an
That's fair.
introvert.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I feel like even I haven't read Quiet yet, but I'm
oh
going
no.
to. It sounds like it will be a very validating experience for me. Um, with Bittersweet, I feel like in the introduction even, like not that I like thought this specifically at the time, but based on what you said, I feel like even from the introduction, it feels like a book that like yeah, like don't pick this up if you're not this kind of person, you know? Like not in like an exclusionary way, but like it's written in a way that like this is specifically for people who experience these things and like I like fit a lot of the things that she's talking about, so I don't really mind that it is kind of like similar ideas and just different examples because I really like all the examples she's using too.
Yeah.
Um yeah, it doesn't feel like a general nonfiction. It feels more like a if you are this specific type of personality, you will get a lot out of this. Otherwise, you might just be like, okay, so what? Like, you know, like what's the point?
Yeah.
I haven't read either of them, but yeah, I feel like I would enjoy Quiet because I am an extrovert that is surrounded by introverts. Because
Mm,
I'm extroverted, but my best friend's an introvert. I'm married an introvert. Our like best family friend is an introvert. So I don't know.
yeah. You need to get like behind the scenes, like
Right.
Yeah. And so like I have adapted like my I feel like I used to be a lot more like extra extrovert and then I think being around all these introverts
Mhm.
has kind of like toned down some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's another good point is like if they're books that are specifically for people who connect to them or people who are not like them and they're like I want to get like a really clear description of what it's like to see the world like this, you know? Like that might be
Yeah.
another kind of thing.
I also with Bittersweet, I do have some degree that I'm kind of like I'm not so sure I agree with her premise,
I remember you saying
but
that. Yeah.
like, you know,
Yeah. I think
that's a different problem.
yeah, I think like what the reasons that it's working so well for me are just like there's multiple layers of like I so far I do feel like I agree with her premise. I connect to it very specifically. I find the example she's using interesting even if they don't tell us something super different. And also kind of like you were saying about quiet, but like I have known a lot of people who like have specifically like made me feel bad about the way that I like
Mm-hmm.
react emotionally to things. Like basically the things that she's talking about, like getting made fun of for that or just like people making me uncomfortable for it. So I think like you were saying for quiet, it's also just a very like cathartic and validating thing to have an entire book about like hey, there's nothing wrong with seeing the world this way, you know, like this is a
Yeah.
thing and other people have it. So I feel like it's one of those where like a lot of circumstances just line up for me to really enjoy it and get a lot out
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah.
But I can
I
see
think
how it is very specific.
yeah. I do also think that some of it could do with like one of the things I've been trying to figure out is what type of nonfiction I like. And I think we talked about this a little bit at one point because there are books that fall into the realm of like there's like overlap between like pop psychology and like self-help, right?
Yep.
And there are books that fall in that range that I really enjoy and ones that I don't. And
Yeah,
I'm
like
trying to figure out what the difference between them is. Um
I think it's really interesting that you really like Brene Brown, but not so much Susan Cain. I don't know why. Like, not that they have like similar
Wait, is Susan Cain the
approach.
author of Bittersweet?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't remember what her name was.
Yeah, no, I think it's Susan Cain. Um,
Yeah.
like I haven't
Um
read Brene Brown yet, but it's just like interesting to me that you would like I don't know, if I had like just heard descriptions of their nonfiction, I would guess that you would like Susan Cain more.
mm,
But yeah.
I think that well, the thing is I think that part of it, I don't know, there's something that's different in their approach to things. Part of it to me, I think, is that like Brene Brown is very research based. Like she is a researcher who is telling you about what her research has found and is then using stories and examples to show that. And she is building an argument, but her argument is based on the research. Whereas Susan Cain's books feel more like she has a point that she wants to make and she's like finding examples to justify it, which is not an approach that I enjoy as much. Not that that's like not a legitimate approach, because honestly, that's how like most essays and
Yeah.
books and papers and like lots of things. But it just feels it's less interesting to me when it's like her approach is like, well, I had this feeling about something and then I wanted to just find a lot of examples that kind of prove my point. Not
Mm.
that she's incorrect in her point. Like I'm not saying that her argument is not like a legitimate argument either. It just as an approach to writing a book and building an argument, I enjoy her way of doing it less. I also there's something about it that I don't think like I do enjoy Brene Brown's books. I'm not like as intensely on the bandwagon as some people are. Like some people are like very diehard fans of hers. I like her stuff though. And I think that what I like most about her uh books are that like I from every Brene Brown book that I've read, I have gotten at least a few interesting things to talk like think about or talk to people about, like a couple of interesting tidbits to really like think about and turn over. And I don't feel like I get anything like that from Susan Cain's books. Like I read her books and I'm like, okay. And then
Mm.
like I don't think about it afterwards. Like she doesn't bring up either questions or information and facts that I think about later and turn over in my mind or want to tell other people about or talk to people about.
It could also be partly related to the fact that you don't connect to them very much, you know? I don't know,
Yeah.
but it
But
kind of sounds like and I haven't read Brene Brown yet, so
I'm not sure I like super connect to Brene Brown's like her stuff is all about like vulnerability and which I mean like that's relevant. Maybe I connect to it more, but not like so intensely.
mm.
I don't know.
I'm just going off of like reviews for Brene Brown obviously, but it kind of yeah, like it feels like they have different approaches where like Brene Brown has like she starts out off like really broad in general and then she kind of like I don't know, not summarizes, but like collates like the information into like an end point.
Hmm.
And Susan Cain sort of does the opposite where she starts like it's more exploratory. Like she starts with an idea and
Mm-hmm.
then she kind of builds out from that. I don't know. That's like a guess I have um about how Susan Cain's books feel so far to me, but yeah, I definitely think it's true that like there are some nonfictions where like a personal connection is more important than others.
Yeah.
Um like I just finished Agrippina by Emma Southon, which is a nonfiction about Agrippina the Younger, and I loved it. I thought it was fantastic. I think she's an incredible historian and writer. I think a lot of people would maybe think she's not as serious of a researcher because of the like tone she uses, but I enjoy it. But even while I was reading it and loving it, I was like, this might be one, like I could see the parts of the book where it's like, okay, if you're not like really invested in like feminist reclaiming of ancient Rome like figures, like you would probably be like, this part's kind of dull. It's like, but I'm like eating it up. I love it. So like I definitely think that there's like some nonfiction books that are like more dependent on like your personal interest or connection, because like I like finished the book and I'm like, I am so mad at Nero, and it's like this happened like 2,000 years ago, and I'm like, do you know what that little punk did? Like
I feel like I should read this book.
it's so good, Kelly. Yeah, I like Emma Southen. I've read 2 of her books now, like her 2 nonfiction books that are out that aren't like one of those university press ones. And I'm like, okay, she's like officially one of my favorite currently writing nonfiction authors. Like, um, I really, really like her stuff. Like I read A Fatal Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum in December, and that was fantastic. And that one I think is maybe a little less dependent on like the reader having a particular interest or connection. Um, and I also I found out that she has a book coming out later this year that is called A Rome of One's Own, and it's like basically a whole book about like reclaiming like the history of like women in ancient Rome and stuff. So I just love the stuff she does. Like give me all of the classical feminism. Thank you.
I think you would definitely like Pandora's Jar then. I mean, obviously
I'm
it's
excited.
not Roman,
Yeah.
but like very similar of like, yeah.
Yeah.
Now it makes
I'm
me
really
want to
excited.
read those books. I'll have to check them out.
I really, really have liked her so far. And one of the things that I like is that even though she does use like a lot of humor and like her tone can be very like casual and approachable, something I really appreciate is she knows when to not do that. Because there, I have read nonfiction that I think like that I did not enjoy the way they used humor so much, or like I felt like it was like inappropriate, or like I think I have had experiences like that. But the reason I really like hers is I feel like she knows the parts where that is inappropriate. Like when she's like in the Murder in Ancient Rome one, like there's like a few parts where she's talking about like some of the truly ridiculous ways that Roman emperors died. And it's like, yeah, it would be hard like not to laugh at this. This is just like so out there and ridiculous. But like when she's talking about like the chapter where she's talking about like children, going missing or being like used in like rituals and stuff, like that part she doesn't make fun of, because that would be like that just wouldn't feel right. So I really love her. I feel like her her tone might be not for everyone, but I think she's really good at what she does. So
I
if
would
you do
probably
read
like
her,
her
I
tone.
hope you enjoy her. What's that,
Sounds like,
Kelly?
I said it sounds like I would like her tone because I do like a little more narrative to my life.
Yes, it's definitely narrative. And also, something else I love about her, and that I think more nonfiction writers need to do, is she does not hide that she has like an opinion about what she's talking about. Because I feel like that's dishonest. Like, I don't care how many degrees you have as a historian, like, nobody like can be like completely neutral about what they're talking about. And so I feel like the honest thing to do is to like tell your reader when that is like part of what you're doing and what you're writing about, um like that's what I care about. And I think it's actually like, I don't know, there's like this weird fixation on like neutrality, like that makes you like a better like historian or a better storyteller. And it's like, no, like if you're talking about like somebody like kidnapping and murdering children, like you should have an opinion about that. Like, yeah, you can talk about cultural context, I think that is really important, but like don't act like it doesn't matter. Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, I love Emma Southen. That's like the
Takeaway.
summary of this part. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely check it out. Yeah. I have like nonfiction. I really zoom through things that are like that are like narrative nonfiction.
Yes.
I will get like addicted to it and like wanting
Yes.
to read it. And then there's nonfiction that is more educational that I really like reading because I like the information, but I take a lot slower. Like I'm reading one that's really good. I'm reading The Color of Compromise
Mhm.
And it's about racism in the church, like in the Christian church in America. And I think it's like very informative. He's got a lot of like really good research, and it's important, but it's not, obviously it's not going to be very narrative because this is a
Yeah.
really big topic. He's not going to infuse humor. He's not going to like
Right.
make it seem like a story. Like we're talking about like horrible things that
Yeah.
have happened in the history of racism and church, and their connection. So I just like am taking a very long time to read it.
Yeah.
And not like necessarily enjoying reading it, but I think it's important. And I mean, it's well written. So like he's not like boring me with his super dry facts, but it's also not like, oh, this is fun to read. Like,
Right.
like
Yeah. Well, and I think that makes sense because like a 5-star book or like a fantastic book is not always one that you read really quickly, you
mhm.
know? Like I think there can be. It's like, oh yeah, I love this book and I couldn't put it down, but it doesn't, just because you take something slower doesn't necessarily mean that you're not enjoying it or you're not getting a lot out of it. So, especially with nonfiction.
Yeah, that one, I mean, I think I started it in January as part of our readathon, and I'm still only halfway through the book. Um, because I mean, it's just really tough subject matter. I mean, like when there was one part where I was like, I'm going to be physically ill. And like, that's not an enjoyable read, but
Yeah.
it's important to know our history and like that horrible things happened. And
Yeah.
like, you can't just like sweep them under the rug. And
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm not going to like zoom through that.
Makes
Where I
sense.
would like something like I read "Will My Cat Eat My Eyeballs?" and I
Yeah.
like because it was like about death, but a humorous book about death. So I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yep. Makes sense. I might I remember you talking about The Color of Compromise. That's one I think I want to look into as well.
yeah,
Because yeah, very relevant still, unfortunately.
yeah, and like he goes up through, I think like current times. I haven't gotten to that part right now. I'm still at I'm just starting the civil rights movement. I just finished Jim Crow South, but yeah, but it is, whew, it's
Yeah.
like some tough stuff. But I'm glad he's like, I'm glad that this book exists, and I'm hoping that more like um Christians like not necessarily read this book, but like understand like there's a history and
Yeah. Yeah, and I always hope with books like that that it'll find some of the people who are not like so entrenched in like, no, we don't have a problem, like stop stop being woke or like whatever, but like those people that are kind of like in the middle, but it's possible to convince them. Do you know? Like maybe people who it's like, oh yeah, racism was a problem in the church, but like things are better now. We're okay. It's like I hope that a book like that might be something that people who are like willing to be convinced would pick up, and
Mhm.
be convinced. I would hope.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, yeah. Sounds intense though, for sure.
Mhm.
On that note, should we
Yeah,
want
I
to
was
like,
like, oh, that
do
took
we want to? No, no, it's okay. I mean, I was just telling stories about like books about murder, so like
yeah.
I kind of started it. But I was just gonna ask, like, do we feel like this is a good stopping point? We're at about like 3 hours.
I mean, I will have to eat at some point.
That's a good idea. So we
Because of this
might
time here.
go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you guys for hanging out with us. I hope you had fun doing reading or crafting or working or whatever it was you were doing. Huck and Kelly are both linked below. And thank you if you are watching this back later. We really appreciate that too. And yeah, I mean, you'll see like content on all of our channels, like, of course, before we do another one of these, but we will also be doing more of these little cozy sprints throughout the year. So yeah, Kelly and Huck, anything to add or anything you want to like plug that's coming up?
No, it's always fun though. It's always a delight.
Yeah.
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 Hang out and craft. I definitely got to that point where I was like, I need a thimble if I keep going. So
Yeah. And that's when we stop. Like,
Yeah.
no thimbles here. All right. Thank you guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.